Futures slightly lower to start here this morning as we look to extend a pretty impressive bounce back rally late in the day yesterday. Tech stocks led the way as we headed into the close yesterday, and nice solid performance, 1+% for the NASDAQ. All three U.S. markets, though, back in positive territory by the end of the day. It has been a pretty negative month overall for the Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. 1.3% yesterday for the NASDAQ, 0.6 for the S&P, though. As I said, back in positive territory. The NASDAQ, however, where is it? 19.8% now from its record high. We did get into bear market territory yesterday off the bat there. So an interesting note for tech stocks and the NASDAQ in general, back towards those multi-month lows. Big time earnings to come over the next 3 days, tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday. We're going to get some of the biggest earnings, in fact. So we'll have a look at some of the tech stocks. UPS out this morning, better than expected report. PepsiCo out this morning with a decent report as well, although their forecast a little bit of an issue. It's Tuesday, April 26th, 2022. TraderTV.live starts now. Yeah, there we go. A look at some red numbers once again this morning, but not bad overall. 0.4-ish, there or thereabouts for all three U.S. markets right now. TSX futures here in Toronto, 0.35 to the downside. Brazil, about the same in negative territory. Yeah, crude on the way back to the upside this morning. We saw that big-time reversal yesterday. Now up 1.4 for crude oil. Bitcoin and Ethereum back in positive territory as well. The volatility continues as we head into a Tuesday. Good morning, guys. Arun back with us. It's Sean's week for COVID. We've now pretty much all been through it. Arun, you've been lucky to avoid it so far, but Sean gets his turn. Yeah, everything crossed for Arun. Sean gets his turn this week, so we wish him well. We hope he's back ASAP, guys. We get into the biggest of the biggest earnings starting, as I said, tonight, tomorrow, and Thursday.
Yeah, welcome. And it's one of those ones that's reporting tonight. Oh, I just got another position. But it's one of those ones reporting tonight that's right up Sean's wheelhouse, like Microsoft, of course. I mean, you know, Microsoft's a big name. I think it's in everybody's wheelhouse to be sure. But that's the story. It's Microsoft, Alphabet, the first of the big tech to come. It's like a third of the S&P this week, and those are the two biggest and the baddest, and they're going to be leading the market. And yesterday, the rally was strengthened, I think, clearly by Microsoft. And we'll see if that can happen today. I know we're going to get a lot of questions about Twitter, and we'll do our best to answer them. Just keep in mind, it's going to be a boring trade for that stock. A 54.20 cash deal is not going to be very exciting to trade, but we will answer questions about that one. But I thought UPS had a great report. Obviously, you can see that we both have it. And AVDL, an interesting one from yesterday. We'll talk a bit about that because halted down on nothing. Company comes out, makes a statement, and it comes right back, and that's now active to trade. So there's a lot to look at ahead of the big earnings tonight.
Yeah, Microsoft, big dog. Microsoft coming out, and hey, number 2 on the NASDAQ wait list. So right behind Apple at the top there with 12%. Microsoft is there number 2, I believe 10 point something percent. So big influence on the NASDAQ futures. I believe they report at 405. I think it's 405 or 410. I got to double check the exact time, but it's going to be after 4 o'clock. Keep in mind, though, Microsoft can report, and still futures will be open until 4:15. So there will be an opportunity to play that if you want to go in that direction instead of trying to get your hands on Microsoft shares. If you are that type of player, you don't want to trade Microsoft shares in the aftermarket, you can definitely jump into NASDAQ futures because it will definitely move around with Microsoft's influence. So definitely want to watch as we go to the end of the day today.
Yeah, going to be interesting, to say the least. And I mean, we say this simply because of where the overall market is and the importance, as Arun was mentioning, of some of these individual names on the overall index. So we'll have a look at all of these coming up here. Before we do, let's bring in Ms. Fee. Good morning.
Good morning, team. Welcome to another trading session. I wish you a successful, profitable day. Please like this video and let's get it started, Brendan.
Yep, let's get it started, guys. Lots to discuss as we head towards the open here. Under an hour to go before we get the market open for a Tuesday. So yeah, let's go to Twitter because it's going to be, let's face it, a very hot topic going forward here. And as we said, yeah, maybe a bit of a boring trade. But that being said, guys, there's going to be all kinds of volume and potentially all kinds of liquidity in this as well going forward over the next few weeks at least. So range-wise, we might be dealing with a bit of a small range. But how do we take advantage of I mean, yesterday it almost got to 200 million shares on the actual announcement. So we're expecting that to continue.
Yeah, so look, the terms of the deal, 54.20 in cash, expected being the key word, expected to close at the end of the year. So, you guys can do the math probably faster than I could pull up a calculator, but I did not. So from here at about 51.70 or 52 around that range to the end of the year, what are you talking about? An annualized 6 to 7% return. Now, if you hold shares until the deal closes, you get 54.20. So that is a guaranteed return so long as the deal closes and closes on time. There's no regulatory concern that I can think of. That being said, I'm not saying any names, but there were some in the Senate that said this deal was bad for the public, but they're going private. And this is not a merger. There's no antitrust concerns that are going to happen here, because this is not Twitter, say, like Facebook coming in and buying Twitter, which would get blocked like 10 times out of 10. This is something totally different. So, whether Elon turns around or not, that has nothing to do with what you're going to gain from owning Twitter shares. You get $54.20, and you get it at the end of the year. I tend to think there's going to be bids, because that's not a horrible return in this kind of a market. So I think it's got a very good floor on it. I just look at previous support and just say people are going to look at the same lines in the chart. They'll look at even dollars. There's no way this thing should be trading with under 50 unless there's some significant reason why people think the deal would not close or would get significantly delayed. And I see neither one of those. On the flip side of that, I can't see much of a reason why it would trade close to 54 until it gets closer to the end of the year. However, squeezes can still happen, right? Like, it's going to be actively traded. If too many people pile into the short thinking it shouldn't be trading above 52 at this time of the year, then they can get squeezed. I've seen it happen on buyouts before. You've seen Activision make crazy moves. That trades with a much bigger spread. But my first look will be trying to buy in front of 51.50 for scalp trades, and then 51. And if it breaks 51, that wouldn't make sense to me. I'd probably be sitting it out, because I think that would be some kind of a weird flash crash if it happened to get down there.
Okay, so Twitter, Neil, you would know more about this because you trade these buyouts a lot more. I would imagine the ranges tighten up a lot. So whatever range you had in the last little bit when Twitter was, waiting for news, now it's all settled in, and we're just waiting for the deal to close. So the range itself on the daily should tighten up. Volume will obviously pick up, because they can run volume through the levels much more now, but the range itself should tighten up. Am I correct?
Yeah, 100%. But the other aspect that there's a lot of retail interest in it that I think can get a little bit exuberant, so it might have more movement than usual. But again, I'd expect it to tighten up here. I think it squeezes if it goes too high. There's levels that are going to be shorted on this thing, and it's not betting against Elon. It's just understanding the locked-in price.
All right, wanted to mention Digital World Acquisition Corporation, the other end of this kind of conversation that we were having yesterday, obviously. DWAC and Trump Media, Truth Social, getting a bump this morning, a nice one, in fact, 3.6% so far here, back to the upside after, that happened yesterday, all the way back to 34 when the deal was announced. We had some volatility simply on a report that came from Fox suggesting that former U.S. President Trump will not, regardless of this deal, will not return to Twitter. I've seen multiple people suggesting on Twitter this morning, reliable sources anyways, in my opinion, that there was a conversation, in fact, that happened between former President Trump and Elon Musk this morning. So whether or not this is actually going to be confirmed remains to be seen. Obviously, what happens in the future also remains to be seen, guys. But 3.8% here, hard to avoid, decent volume for DWAC.
Yeah. It was a wild trade, because when that announcement that he's not coming back to Twitter, or Trump's not coming back to Twitter, DWAC, like, it ran to 40. I was in the trade and ended up making money on it, but it was just way too early. And the liquidity vacuums are still there on DWAC. The spread opens up pretty big, so you have to make sure you're trading it off important levels. I tend to still think that the trend is pretty true as to what's going on. The downside momentum since it broke and has gotten to this 37, like that previous low, like since the deal got announced, that's that previous low that it held this entire time at 37. So this 35 to 37 range is important for DWAC. And the fact that it ran right back towards it after that spike, below that price, I just think it looks like an attractive short. I did have written up here like the 38 to 40 band is pretty interesting, but if it doesn't get above 40, I'm playing weakness on DWAC. Like I'm shorting pops into that 40 range. If it breaks out from that price, then once again it's managed to hold this level, and I think it can possibly do some things. There was a rumor, of course, that Trump Elon talked. I think that'll always be out there. Until this deal, closes and Elon has control, that eventually you're going to have, maybe Trump would go back to it. And ultimately, he had so many more followers on Twitter anyways. It's a hard thing to overlook. But DWAC, again, until it's above 40, I just see it as a short to pop situation. Just be careful of spread. Yeah,
I mean, it's, for me, technically, it's this level right here. We talked about this yesterday. It was that 36 area. The fact that it held early in December of 2021, and then we bounced up, all the way into the 100 area, and then came all the way back, and this was our last support level until 10. So the fact that we've cleared it now, yeah, this was 36, now we're trading 37, but there's resistance on this thing all the way up to 52. And how long can Trump hold out from not being on Twitter is going to be the real question at this point, right? Is he going to be itching to go as soon as this is done, or is he going to hold to his guns and stick with his platform as well? So for the most part, I'm going to say that he's going to itch to go to Twitter as soon as he can. So downside, like Neil said, trend is to the downside. Technicals are broken. Upside, stop, if you were to go for the short, would be what? South of 36 with a 52 stop, wide range, but at the same time, downside gives you all the way down to 10. So technically, risk reward is almost a 3-to-1 at that point. Actually, that's a lie. That's 2-to-1 at that point. So it makes sense to be on the short side. But again, this is a long, stretched out situation because can they get a handle on all the not regulation, but the changes that they want to make before the deal is going to be closed, which would allow some moves to be made for against DWAC, I guess. But for the time being, technicals are broken south of 36, and I think that's the direction we're going to have to look at. If we get an intraday shot, of course, if you get a pop into the mid 40s, that's even better because then you could play a lower risk short against that 52.
Let's talk about UPS. So we'll move on. We'll obviously come back to Twitter throughout the morning here as we get closer to the open and obviously after that. But I want to talk about UPS here because in the past we've discussed the simple fact that these shipping type companies and parcel type companies can kind of be looked at as a bit of a benchmark for the overall state of the economy and the overall state of the world, really. UPS out with a decent report this morning, coming off from the highs. The forecast better than expected, is still up obviously 1.3%, but we are seeing this move faded, guys, back into this decent consolidation area on the daily chart.
I mean, you can see it. Neil's long, I'm long. we're both roughly looking at the same read, it seems like, which was that pop-off north of that high into 193. If you look at the overnight, we were up there. We were up into the 95, 96. Now we're dripping back into support. Why not take a shot at the long? And I think we both see the same read. We're both putting up the same risk, most likely. So odds are we're looking for the same type of play to the upside, which is going to be off the daily. You get a break up right through this level right here. And now trying to catch a bid off the support or previous resistance and see if we can get an extension back into towards the 200s. I mean, that's my read. It's fairly clear cut. If it doesn't work south of 90, I take my hit, walk away, call it a day. Because you know what? FedEx is also there because FedEx actually has a pretty decent support level as well. So both of them in line roughly with what they want to do today. Obviously, UPS has their move, but again, FedEx is an option too. After a false break south of their 199 support yesterday, snap back into this right back above that resistance level. Now we're sitting pretty even if it comes down, right? So on FedEx, that is. So it's going to take a lot to break FedEx, and then UPS has their earnings out. So, I mean, it's worth a shot. If any trade is worth a shot, it's got to be UPS, especially with the setup and the risk.
Yeah, it's interesting because like yesterday I liked to break an AMD, and NVIDIA was a playoff support when AMD had the better catalyst. So today you've got UPS more in the breakout territory off of its consolidation, and that's the one we choose to be in, where you have FedEx, which is playing off the support in a similar space without the direct catalyst. So pick and choose. I always like to be in the one that has the direct catalyst. I love the fact they reaffirm the guidance. I think that's the best that you can ask for in this situation. But maybe to simplify it, because obviously we can look at this consolidation and look at all of the room it has to the 200 period or the 198 to 200 range at this point. How about just what it did last time on good earnings, right? Like in Feb, the stock went absolutely bonkers when it broke 200 and went another 15% after. Like it was insane. So, I'm not saying this is going to happen again, but you just look at it, like when is it the best opportunity to trade? It's had these big ranges. If it's bouncing off of support, we've seen it break out before. I'm not even hoping that happens. I'd be really pleased if we just got 198 to 200. I think that'd be a fantastic move, especially with the market looking weak today. So count me an UPS. That FedEx looks pretty juicy, and I have to admit, like if UPS starts to fail, and you do see FedEx bouncing off that level, you might have me convinced that it's at least worth a look. Putting those sympathy plays. We talked about sympathy plays yesterday. It's worth putting those onto your radar as well, or setting up an alert just in case it gets to that support level.
Market back to session lows here on decent volume as well. Not seeing any headlines yet, guys, but let's go to some of the travel names. JetBlue, regional air carrier, obviously out with earnings this morning. Wider loss. Q1 loss. I bring this up simply because not a terribly exciting trade so far for JBLU, down 2.8%, but some of the other airlines specifically have shown significant strength over the past couple of weeks and a nice bounce back. So a little negative here for the group this morning.
Well, we saw the runs that was it last week? It was 2 weeks ago. Delta, they've been on tremendous runs, and then you have pullbacks like this. JetBlue in particular. It already had put in a pretty bearish move after failing the 50 period and putting that wick top in. So I would be more likely and we're more inclined to be all over this. A, if the volume was better. B, if it was trading a little bit closer to the short zone that I would want to be taking. Like if you look at the 15, like to me, where this was in the pre-market and where it failed on Friday at about 13.30, that would be the short level. As a matter of fact, I might just throw an offer just in case JetBlue gets up there. But with it trading on low volume, well away from those prices, the only game in town would be like a breakdown trade, retesting the lows. And on low volume breakouts, breakdowns, don't really love it here. I understand you have a catalyst. I'd much rather be fading this at 13 and giving it to 13.30. Than just hitting the bid at 12.50, when the group had shown some strength coming into this number, specifically for JetBlue. That's all. Just because they're the ones that came through, and they're the ones that we're looking at. I would love to be trading it if it done better volume and giving me a 13 short. If you put that trade on really early in the morning, you're having to wait it out for for an hour and a half, a couple hours before any better liquidity comes in. And I don't think that's always a great play. There's just too much risk at that point. So I'll throw an offer out there. If it comes to 13, great. We'll take a shot. 13.30 is that obvious sort of previous high that I think it should have trouble getting through.
JetBlue's chart is not a fun chart to work with, to say the least. It is a mixed bag across the board. Yeah, we're catching a bid. Yesterday, not right now. Although we're catching a bid through these 50s area, we are drifting down from that 13 in the pre-market, and we're kind of hitting that support area. But then if you go for the 1250s, you got to use that low from back in March as your stop. It's going to be south of 1150. So the upside potential is somewhat limited as well. You're catching a bid, but can you really get past 13 in a big way? Maybe 1350 if you're lucky. What I like in terms of charting is going to be Southwest versus JetBlue. Southwest, actually, the way they're reacting to this 46, 45 area, it seems to be like there's decent amount of support. I think once you get north of 47, you can actually get going towards that 49 area. So I think if I'm going to play some sort of airline or make a move on the airlines, it's probably going to be based on the charts on Southwest, which I like much better than JetBlue. So I'll keep an eye on this one. I'm going to set off an alert here. If we get north of 47, I'll take a look, see if I can't grab along at the right prices. Of course, if it moves too fast, we're going to back off, but it does have to get going to the upside before stepping in.
A little bit of individual news in the EV space this morning. Ford coming out on the watch list, in fact, this morning. talking about the Ford F-150 Lightning, and the production of the truck has officially begun. So positive for Ford. We'll have a look at Ford coming up here. I wanted to mention Tesla before I do that, though. Make sure you're here this morning at 10:30. Our friend Kevin O'Leary back with us this morning to discuss all things market. We're going a wide range of topics here with KO this time. We'll talk about inflation. We'll get his take on when he sees things improving. If you remember back in January on this show, he mentioned second half of the year before we get any kind of improvement on the current state of inflation. So make sure you're here once again. 10:30, we'll get Kevin O'Leary back on the show. Excited for that. Tesla, I mentioned Ford. Let's talk Tesla here quickly, guys. Not doing much in the pre-market, but setting up right below this pivot, obviously, over the past week or so around this 1,000 mark once again. We saw the sell-off yesterday late in the day on the Twitter news. I still haven't seen any confirmation, I guess, that would suggest some of the shares of Twitter are going to be involved in this deal. But I mean, a level anyways to work with today for Tesla.
Yeah, for sure. And just a quick note, this EVOK, by the way, they just broke $1. It went 150% to the upside. Like, there was news. I threw it in the chat there. They got granted FDA market exclusivity for GIMOTI, however you want to pronounce that drug. So low floater, 40 million shares only. The Tesla tie-in is twofold. So A, could he sell shares at 21 billion that is coming from him? Maybe he has to sell some shares for it. The other side of it that I think is a little bit more important would be the notion that Elon gets distracted a little bit. I mean, the man is a wizard, and he's got a lot of things. Like, he's got. And it's not just Tesla, Twitter. You've also got to think about SpaceX. You've also got to think of like the Boring Company. He's got that startup as well. So this is a man whose attention is going to be divided. We still don't know the structure, like who's going to run the company. Maybe he's not even going to be running Twitter, and we don't really care if you're. Fundamentally, we can care about it as a company, but overall, it's not going to matter to the share price because you're going to get 54.20. I tend to think Tesla is just coiling up here. And remember, they had blowout earnings, right? And we had a spike, and then you've come right back in, and you're settling back down here on a monster key level, this 970 area, maybe ticking down to 960 as well. That is significant and important support for Tesla. And the channel that needs to break is sort of looking at that 1010 before you can even start testing back to some of those areas. We missed the dip buy yesterday. I'm going to look right back to that 970. I think that's the price. That's where to look for it to buy, unless you really like the breakout at 1010. The volume not that big on Tesla actually, and then I look at it pre-market. But those are the two prices I'm looking at.
I mean, he may have put up Tesla shares, but doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to sell them. They could just be collateral,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
typically is. That's kind of what they do, right? They use their shares as collateral for loans or whatnot. And Tesla, again, back down to that 965, like Neil said, actually. It's going to be that 970 to 965 area that we need to work with. To get to the downside, that needs to go. Although on this chart, on the daily chart, you don't see the pre-market activity, it has to clear that 965, because if you take it back to the pre-market yesterday, what do you get? You get that spike down through there and then snap back up. It's going to be that area. Yeah, we spiked through that 965, but I'm going to say 965 needs to hold for us to actually get going to the downside. But for the time being, it's holding a support, so that means respect it. The upside targets are going to be around that 1100 area. That's still the area that we kind of failed around when we popped off on the earnings there. So it's kind of boxed in here, 1100 up top, 965 down below. Which side is this going to choose to break out of? And whichever direction it breaks out of, we're probably going to see a decent run too. So here we are kind of just waiting on Tesla and see how that one plays out, as this market could be setting up some decent moves. Brendan.
All right, a few analyst moves to get through this morning. We'll talk about Match Group, an interesting move yesterday. Remember, we were talking about the Facebook. There was rumors flying around that Facebook was kind of kicking the tires on Match Group. Downgrade today from JP Morgan. AXP earnings last week better than expected. Twitter, Coke, and MRO. Microsoft aftermarket tonight. Rivian on here. Haven't seen Rivian for a while, and Wayfair as well, guys.
Yeah, Rivian, it's been a while. Actually, Match has done no volume pre-market, but it's one that I'm going to be watching today just because, A, the downgrade, B, the speculation, and then this 83 top that it had in yesterday's action. Like on the 3-minute, you can see like it was a quadruple top at $83. You also line it up on the daily and look at this previous low at 84. Like if it chews through that, unfortunately, there's not really much of a short interest or anything like that for a squeeze, but the speculation of a deal, fair enough. A lot of times you get these downgrades, and when it catches one of these, it can often mean that the selling is close to done. But I don't want to be too cynical about something like that. It does need to chew through 83, 84, but it starts trading above that price, and we actually see some volume because there's been none yet. I think this would have room to make a bit of a run. And then conversely, if it fails that level, well, you've got room down to 75. So this is one that bears watching at the open. As for the Twitter, like upgrade in $54 price target, that probably just means that they had such a ridiculously low target on it before that they have to make that update. Probably not worth reading into that one too much.
I'm sorry, did I hear Twitter 54? I mean, really? Now you're gonna try to get yourself right? Okay, fine. Why? You might as well say Twitter 5420 to be exact. But regardless, I think we're going to play Rivian here. I just want to take a quick look at Rivian because, like Brendan said, it's been a while since it's been on that board. So I took a quick look at the daily chart, and Rivian here is, trying to work through the lows from back in March, and we got underneath a couple days ago, or Friday, and then yesterday we attempted to rally up, and we couldn't catch any juice, even with the market that was running very, very strong yesterday. So attempted move back up through these 34s. Not happening. What is Rivian doing in the pre-market? It's still flirting with this. So what I want to see here on Rivian is another attempt north of 34. If we can get going north of 34 again, I think a nice little fade could be in play here to the downside. I don't care what kind of upgrade they got. If they can't get going north of 34 once again, especially given that we're below the the March lows, and we tried yesterday, failed. If we try one more time and fail again, I think there might be a nice little short to work with here on Rivian.
A number of EV makers specifically to talk about this morning as well. Lucid, if you remember yesterday, we mentioned there was a mention from the company itself. It was investigating the opportunity of moving into the Chinese market. So Ford, the other one, though, I mentioned just before we went over to upgrades and downgrades there. Ford saying this morning that, we'll get into the watch list here in a couple of minutes, guys, but Ford saying this morning that the Lightning, F-150 Lightning production underway. So if you have one of those pre-orders that they quickly sold out of, possibly your truck being made right now, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be first. It's good to be cheaper as well. Like there's obviously concerns about the range on it relative to the other trucks, but hey, it's getting priced very, very competitively. And to go to I was actually going to mention this. I'm glad you said it because when we're looking at Rivian, I'm like, holy crap, that looks like Rivian did look like a good short if it can't get through. I was looking at 35 even for Rivian if it can't get through that price. But you also have the Ford news here being a negative catalyst possibly for Rivian. Ford has bounced pretty nicely, and we can look at the double bottom on the daily chart at 1450 here. That's made a good foundation for a base to try to get back up to these $16 levels. It's not a lot of pre-market volume, but it is holding these highs. It had a previous support at 1520 that it's going to get tested pretty much right at the open because we're at 1520 right now. So this wouldn't be one to sort of sit in here because I kind of feel like you could just get picked off and wicked out at the open. But if we do drop through that price, I needed to reclaim 1520 for me to like the log. Otherwise, you'd have to play off 1450. So I think this news just gives another ample reason to find a fade play in Rivian today for Ford. I generally prefer to play Rivian as a day trading stock. I think we all know that. But Ford should be on the radar today.
Sean, bursting my bubble there, let me know that Rivian shares need to be paid for shorts. So
I just did.
Can't do that anymore. There goes that idea. So we're going to be focusing on Ford here. What's up?
They are it's 0.79, so it's like of a cent.
Nope.
It's less than 1 cent.
Nope.
Okay. No, just want you to know.
Nope.
Okay.
So Ford, we're gonna, like Neil said, it's gonna be 1450. It seems like that's gonna be the bottom end. If I scroll back a little bit to the daily, you go back into about September of 2021. It's not even 1450 anymore. It's actually 14. There's a few days of congestion there, which probably brings in a decent amount of volume. So I'm going to say 14 on the bottom end. We got a nice little push through the top today. We're sitting at 15 and change, 1528 or so, which puts us right here. So we do have a chance to go up. But again, upside is somewhat limited because once you get into 16, you're going to have to run into resistance again. So what's your stop? If you go long 15, are you going to use 14? That's too much risk for a trade like this, which has a limited upside. So although the chart looks decent for a little pop there, I think the risk profile for this trade is not the greatest. Next up would have to be that 1650. That makes more sense because that would actually give you a much better stop and more targets upside. So I'd keep an eye on 1650 breakout to the top end for Ford.
All right, let's get into the overall market, guys. We'll have a look at the futures and understand what we need to be aware of heading into the session this morning. Brought to you again this week today by the small exchange, guys. They're making it easier completely right across the board to access futures and futures trading with small, standard, and simple products. There's no PDT rule and less capital required at the small exchange. So use a QR code, check out thesmallexchange.com. Great information on there anyways. Arun, tell us what we need to know.
All right, this market's coming back up. Strong rally late in the session. Yesterday was like this bear took a beating because it was all over the place. We were back and forth with the bear, the bull, and this market was running volume in both directions yesterday. Towards the end of the day, we finally picked up some volume in the buy side in a decent way here. So you saw that rally pretty much from the bottom. You're looking at almost 100 points from bottom to top there. And now we're drifting off a little bit. The problem is, though, although it looks like we're drifting off, there's actually attempted buys that are not getting anywhere. If you were to break it down a little bit here, this movement here tells me that there's actually sell side coming over the top. Although I like the idea of a long, I do have to respect the fact that this market wants to come down a bit. So although we're down right now 0.5% on both of them, yesterday, remember, S&P was weaker than the NASDAQ. And today they're in line with each other. So we are getting a sell-off. For at least pre-market, we're getting a move down back into support. So although I like the idea of a long, I'm going to wait just a bit until this firms up here a little bit. The level I'm going to work with is going to be 42.35, which puts us south of 50. Remember, 45 to 50. That gives us a decent amount of volume, at least from the move up. We saw that there was a lot of action in that zone here. All the way up to 80, we saw that. But the majority of the volume, if you remember late in the session after we fell from 80 down to 50 and we bounced back up, it was that 45 to 50 area that actually had a decent amount to hold us until the end of the day. So here we are kind of drifting back towards there. If we go another 20 points or so, we should be back in range. And then it's just a matter of setting this up. Low risk setups is what we want. In a market like this that has the ability to move very, very fast, 42.35 is going to be the level, and it's got to be a decent risk reward move to go for the long. And then, of course, if you get north of 4,300, I guess the overnight high is 43.03. Let's call it 43.05. If you get above that 43.05, it could open up the upside on an extension. Because keep in mind, we don't have anything in terms of levels until we get to this point right here, which sits around, which is about 43.75 or so. So for the time being, I am thinking long, but we are drifting down, so I'll respect it. I'll just, wait it out on the future side. Obviously, on the equity side, I've stepped into two names, but on the future side, we'll wait for this one to come down a little bit further and then see if we can get a setup to go for the long.
Great stuff. Thanks, Arun. We'll have a look at crude oil here, maybe coming up as well. Oil trying to get back to $100, guys. So a big level for crude as we got back below, as we said yesterday, 100. But we're working our way back higher. Let's get into everything else you need to know this morning. That is the link to the watch list. Miss V is ready and waiting in the chat. She'll get you that link if you do need it. You can also use a QR code there. I'm about to turn it off, though, so sorry if you were trying. CCL just popped up on some volume here, guys. There was a note suggesting the CEO is stepping down and will shift over to the board. So still going to be on the board, but there's going to be a new CEO for CCL. That aside, pretty impressive that Carnival's $19 again.
Yeah, I mean the travel names had done maybe better than I think. I guess Carnival's reflected here because we saw the big moves by the airlines a couple weeks ago, but it's now starting to just really coil up. So look, I see the spike. I definitely like the spike, but your support's way closer to 18 even. And really, if you're playing this, you're looking for like a gigantic move. I think you're making series of lower highs until you get a bigger catalyst. You do have this $20 range, so you're sitting pretty much right in the middle between that 20 as like a rock and a hard place, that 18 and that 20 off of the 19. So your trade would really be off of a tight stop, like a 19 to like an 1880, which I don't necessarily love. Like I much prefer it off of the key or more significant level, that 18. You didn't even get a shot at that yesterday, and then trading it off of the 20 level, which pretty obviously is a pretty big one as well. So it's worth bearing in mind, looking at it. Certainly, when you did have that pullback and all that could have tended well for a name like this. And the airlines seem to be the better play right now, at least in terms of volatility. If I get a shot at JetBlue, that's where I'm going to try to trade. But Carnival, if you see 18, yeah, sign me up for that kind of a trade. If it gets to $20, I'm definitely going to be looking at fading it up there. Just not really going to touch it here on low volume at 19.
100%. That's the only read to make here, especially off the daily. You see where the support level is. It's going to be down here, right? If you're going to work long, it's got to be through there. Upside's going to be limited all the way to 50. So if you're trading here, where are we trading at? We're trading at 19. It's too expensive because the upside can only get to 20 before we hit resistance. So any sort of long needs to be played south of 18, or at least not south of 18, but at least south of 19 into that mid 18s, so you can actually make sense of the risk. But at 19 is a little pricey. So we'll just leave it on the daily. It's also not a high priority name for me because there's going to be other names. With the indexes moving as much as they are, with Microsoft coming out later on, there's going to be choices. There's going to be a lot of choices, especially in the chip names, because NASDAQ was holding up well yesterday. Relative strength against the S&P tells me we should have some opportunities, especially in the NASDAQ. In the S&P, we might be able to find some value plays because of how weak it was and ended up doing a late stage run. But there could be some plays there, especially in the NASDAQ, for decent plays because of how it's been setting up.
All right, let's get into Twitter. If you're just joining us, a lot of people still coming in here. We'll talk a little bit about what to expect. Yes, the deal is done. If you missed it yesterday, if you're away for whatever reason, Elon, yeah, it's done deal. So what do we do here, guys, as far as the trade is concerned? As we said, might not be terribly exciting. However, tons of volume, already 2.4 million on our system, and potentially tons of liquidity for Twitter today as well.
That's going to be the name of the game.
Yeah.
That's going to be the name of the game. It's going to be a ton of volume, a tighter range. For anyone thinking there's free money all the way up to 54.20, you are right, but at the same time, you're going to have to wait months and months and months for it.
Hold on.
Until the deal closes, right? So it's going to drift in that direction. Right now, Twitter's coming off 51.68, but at the same time, the drift is going to be to the upside towards that cash deal price whenever that deal is expected to close. Until then, it's just going to be hiccups here and there if people are concerned that the deal might not close, or that's the risk you run. Upside is limited to 54.20. Downside is going to be, in the event that the deal runs into an issue, then people are going to be like, well, that deal might not happen. Here goes Twitter to the downside, right? And like Neil said, it could squeeze, but squeezing is not a reference to normal, attempts at running the stock into hundreds and thousands or whatever price point you want. It's pushing it past the deal price because no one thinks it can get past the deal price because technically the company's not worth more because that's the price that everyone agreed for, right? So if you push it past 54.20, it tends to start squeezing because people start putting stops in. So all of a sudden 54.20 is supposed to be the ceiling, and all of a sudden it gets to 54.21. People start getting nervous, like, oh no, is it actually going to go a little bit higher? It shouldn't, but is it going to go higher? Stops go off, 54.20, 30, 40 even, and then you'll see it come right back down to where it needs to go because stops have been dealt with. That's what, referring to squeezing when it comes to these types of names. And that's essentially what's going to happen, although Twitter is drifting down. But again, months and months away from that 54.20 close price.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, on the imbalance locator here, I know it's only 908, but the only thing of significance currently is a 1 million bid on Twitter. So you're probably going to see some imbalance action on it almost on a daily basis in the morning. And then sometimes you'll see it at the close as well. So it is worth monitoring and something we will do. Like you said, Arun, there's going to be a tighter range in scalps that'll be available to be had. I think so you just play off of the range that got established. When the deal got, when the news came out the deal was going to get announced by the end of the day, we put a floor in right around like 51.25 on the dip and then consolidated at about 51.50. So that's the first area of defense for those types of scalp trades, and that's where I'm going to be looking. Although right now, EVOK, because we got to trade something that's going to maybe move a little bit more because I think that's what people are going to be interested in. Now 200%, right? So remember that one break? Yeah. Forget it. It's now gonzo. I think it's about a 20. Let me double check here. It's a 32 million share float. It's starting to get close to this level on the daily chart, 140 to 150, where it gets very, very juicy. I double checked and it was, I'm pretty sure it's free. Was it free shorts? Let me just double check here. Yeah, it's free to short or I already paid for them. But 140 to 150 on the daily, pretty significant level. It's screaming into that price, approaching 20 million shares in volume on that EVOK. That's where my attention is now going to be drawn. In addition, I paid for it? Yeah.
Yeah, because
I think it was cheap, though. I think it was like less than a cent a share. So locates were very cheap on this. It's only $1 stock. But outside of that, AVDL, UPS, we've talked about. You got to watch this EVOK. Miss V?
Guys, today is going to be a very exciting day. Kevin O'Leary will join us at 10:30, so please stay tuned. And I ask you to support the community. Please like this video and help us get at least 1K likes before the open. And now back to Brandon.
Here's a note on EVOK. I like that symbol. If you were wondering, so it's an FDA marketing license, it looks like, for whatever that is. It's one of their drugs, obviously, so heads up. Yeah, nice volume, nice move for EVOK. Let me slide this over. There we go. And we'll talk about Ford, because the Lightning production has begun officially on their production facility, the one that they put a whole bunch of money into at the end of last year, up and running. So your F-150, guys, Lightning edition, could be being made as soon as today.
Yeah, absolutely. Something we talked about in reference to just now Rivian, and I think that can be a fade on Rivian. To be sure, the level on Ford is going to stand out on the daily chart, the one that we really like, and that's going to be the support that we're unlikely to see today. So that's down at 1450 if you want to try to pick it up. You know, being first is great for them. Obviously, there's a lot to be played out in the space in terms of competition, but this is a good news for them, bad news for Rivian and their competitors. But the other level to watch was that 1520 that we were talking about maybe 10 minutes ago. And I just need to see, we're trading at that price right now. So you're either sitting in a long, which my experience in Ford, sitting in a long at this time, when there's a positive catalyst, it tends to sell right at the open. So, you know, if it sells right at the open, it's breaking immediately through that resistance point. So I need to see it bounce off 15, reclaim that 1520, and that would put that trade back on. Otherwise, wait out for that bottom. It's got a lot of room to go before it breaks any kind of overhead resistance. I think 1580 to 16 would be that first stop into the upside. So I want to be patient with Ford. I just see Rivian as probably a more interesting potential trade, especially if it retests the 34 to 35 area.
Yeah, I already talked about Ford, so I don't have much to say about Ford, but I did take a quick look at GM. Like maybe GM's chart looks better in terms of risk reward. I do like the way GM is working these 40s here. We've bounced once in early March, and then we attempted to, get underneath and trade underneath for the last few days in early April, and then we got back above. And then I want to see how we rotate through these 40s. Remember, market was strong, although GM is down at 39 and change, 39.32 right now in the pre-market print. It does look like they could catch a bid, and if they can catch a bid and get back above 41, it opens the door to 43. Again, that's a decent risk reward compared to Ford, which is tight right now with the upside that it's got. So why not go for GM? That's what I'm looking at. Technically, I'm looking at GM on the possibility of a 41 break and then take that to 43 as a target.
Let's go back to UPS here. We'll talk UPS, maybe a little FedEx as well, because they're both moving on this report. So decent look for UPS this morning. Again, if you're just coming in, they reported better than expected. Forecast was kind of in line to a little bit higher, but decent levels, multi-month levels anyways, to contend with here on the daily chart.
Yeah, and look, sometimes in market conditions, in line can be good on your guidance, right? So we had talked about with UPS its previous earnings when it went absolutely bonkers, and we don't expect something like that happening today. Great if it does. I mean, if the stock wants to make that kind of a move like it did last time post earnings, where essentially you had a couple of days and then went about $30 or so. Fantastic. I don't see that happening. I think we're breaking consolidation down around this 192. That's why you see a long entry. It's nothing complicated. This was the January low. This was previous sort of inline resistance. Easier to see when you pop over to the 15-minute chart, just what it's been like the last week at this 192 top. It comes right back in. You have 92 to about 95, 96 for your first consolidation. Next stop, I think, is between 200 and 202, 203. Only thing standing in the way of that 203, of course, you go back to the daily, you get the 50 period as well. So you might only get anywhere from 5 to 10 on this trade overall. It sets up pretty nicely here. You can have a 90 stop. 88 is probably where it's dead wrong. I would almost see that as two trades. We're probably a bit different on this, Arun, in that I would almost see that as 2 trades. If it fails the 190, then I think the 188 is almost a separate trade where I think you can give it back maybe to like an 86 because that's where it broke out from in the aftermarket. But either way, it's worth taking a shot at that long. It was 2 fantastic last earnings.
Yeah, and I agree. You're right. I only see it as 1 trade. So essentially the long down to 190. Once it gets south of 190, I just kind of walk away from it. But that's my read on UPS. I think the big thing here, though, is sure, earnings, whatever, is great. Doubling your share repurchases for this year, that's huge. Like, that's going to bring a lot of interest here in UPS. So here we are, although we're drifting down and maybe stabilizing around 92. The level 2 on this thing looks like this. So there's a lot of back and forth right now. You know, you see the spread, 25 cents in spread. There's, you know, if you ignore the NYBs, remember, NYBs don't print until they open. So they're just, for now, they're just there. That's why you're seeing a locked market. Looks like a locked market, which is not the case. Scroll down. Their ARBs, NSBs, those are where the level 1 prices are at the moment. So EdgeX right here on 64 being the first offer. So it does look like they're still there with the decent spread. It does look like we've got support. And with the doubling of the share repurchases, it kind of has a catalyst to get going off the support level on top of everything else it's released. I think that's a good one to go off with.
Let's go on to GE, another one, or actually one to the downside this morning if we're looking for something to kind of lean on as far as weakness is concerned. GE comes out this morning and says, yeah, their profit is going to be at the lower end of their prior forecast. So not a good look at all in the pre-market. If we could, there we go. 3.3% to the downside when that came out. We're now, 5.5%, better part of 5.5% coming back to session lows, breaking through some levels here for GE, in fact.
I like GE. I own shares of GE. Can't say that. That's exactly what you don't want to hear in this environment. And you know, it just broke down. Like since the split, or sorry, since the reverse split, this 85 had been that support. And this, when March support goes, talked about it yesterday being important for the futures. March support is going right now on GE. It's managed to bounce back here in the pre-market, but it's just right at that same 85 level. So when I see this, I just look at it and say, this has to be a short, either right here at the open at 85. If it can't hold down at 85, 85.50, you would have a bit of a failed breakdown at that price if we don't hold the open. And then I'd want to try it off of the recent low support, and that's 87. So those 2 separate short ideas for GE. The volume's okay, not great, but yeah, you just. When you're essentially saying full year earnings is going to be lower than lower end of its previous forecast, like that's exactly what the market doesn't want to hear. They'd almost prefer if you didn't have any guidance or revised guidance. So not a great look for GE, down 5%, but there's room to 80 if it does fail this 85 level, and even if it tries to pop, I'd be shorting it till 87.
And it gets dicey. Taking up that 85 level opens up a can of worms. It kind of invalidates yesterday's attempted bounce off this 85. Yeah, the March low is here at 85, but again, if you go back to December, we stabilized around that 88 a bunch of times. We flexed a little bit underneath 87, and then we got to 85. Another move back in early April took us down to 87 again. So taking all of that out on a move like this in the pre-market, if I go to the pre-market, it looks like this, and it looks ugly. It looks bad too. So the fact that we're underneath 85, if we attempt to bounce up, and this is what I want to see here, I'm not a fan of going right after the breaks because of how strong it's been in the past, bouncing off these levels. But if we end up trying to bounce up and have no juice to the upside, it's got to be a short. You've got to go for the short south of 85 and try to put your stop north of that 88 into 89 area as your stop because of the volume sitting there, right? You have to respect essentially all of this year and December in terms of volume. If you're going to go for the short, you've got to respect it as far as here because all of that volume is sitting here around that 88, 89 area. So you've got to wait for that. If you're going to go for the short, I want to see attempt a bounce, and if it can't get going, then the shorts are going to be in play here on GE to the downside.
Another one I just saw popping up here. We can talk about Pepsi on the board there, reported as well, obviously. But one we've been talking about over the past week or so, Warner Brothers, guys, WBD on the streaming side of things, also reporting earnings, also missing expectations, 4% to the downside. A little bit of the Netflix, lingering Netflix effect. There's that CNN Plus story from last week surrounding this one as well. CNN Plus, if you missed it, also getting discontinued, pulled off, I guess. So WBD back to the downside there as well. They reported. Pepsi guys also reported.
Yeah, I mean, the Warner Brothers, I didn't see a lot of volume there, so I'm not terribly excited. But I think when it comes to all these, we're going to get like when the streamers start reporting, yeah, you're going to get a little bit scared of Netflix, because I don't see any way that they respond well to the other streamers, whether it's good or bad news, right? Because either it's competition or it's just the entire space is weak. Pepsi, I got a stink bid in. I understand like it wasn't necessarily the best guide, but I look at this 170 that it's been able to post as support, and if it's going to dip down to that price, then that's what I want to be playing off of, guys. So I do have this order locked and loaded and ready to go. On the daily chart, we get down to this 170 level. I want to be playing off it. It did get just below that, like 169.80 or so. And a lot of times, even dollar stops and stocks without a ton of volume, you don't want to go with that. You'll just get hunted. So I will give it a little bit below that price. But I'm sitting just in front of 170.50 on Pepsi, looking to see if it can stay in the range. Not always a very volatile stock. So if it can stay inside the range, that bodes well. It gives you a couple of dollars worth of room to get back up to this 173. Essentially thinking you can get back to where it was, channeling for the next couple of days between that 170 and 174. So that's the only long I want in Pepsi.
I decided to step up a little bit and take the Pepsi long a little bit. Yeah, I got it already.
Okay.
On a cross down. So 172.65 is the average price here on the way down. We were stalling out, well, not stalling. We were trading decently around that 173. I'm like, you know what? It's worth a shot here. It's the same read though. I'm actually playing against the 170 as well. Actually, no, I'm playing a little bit south of. No, I'm playing against the 170 as well, and see if we can actually get a bounce here. Because again, if you go to the daily on Pepsi, it looks like we have a decent chance to bounce. This is going to be the area. If you were to play along, it's going to have to be through this level right here. So why not take a shot with the way that yesterday closed and yesterday was trading around these areas? Remember, we've gapped here. If you go back to the 19th into the 20th, we gapped through here. The fact that we took out that gap and then immediately kind of reverse course the following day gives me some confidence that, hey, you know what, there's some buying down here, because one, we gapped once, and then we failed this little attempted move down. Upside is going to be north of that 175, 176 area on Pepsi. So I am in this one looking to see if we can get a move to the upside. Again, as you can see on the board here, we've got Marvell, we've got Pepsi, we've got UPS. Spreads are absolutely nuts right now. Pepsi spread is like $1, almost 60. Bid versus offer. UPS spread is about 60, 50 cents or so, and they're just opening up. Again, this is pre-market. You want to play in the pre-market, you're going to have to deal with the spreads. That's why you definitely don't want to use a market order. Can you even execute a market order? I guess you can if you run it through ARCA or whatnot.
Yeah,
you can definitely do it through, but you can't do an NYB market order, but you can definitely do ARCA and all these other ECNs. But preferable in the pre-market, if you're playing pre-market, use limits, because you don't want to get priced with the spreads the way they are. You definitely don't want to get priced on either end of those. Brendan.
Lots to look at this morning, but one more I want to throw out there. HYMC, everyone's favorite gold mining company, out this morning with results and production results as well. If you remember, AMC taking a stake in HYMC. So they were just updating some of their production for the quarter and also earnings for the quarter. Obviously not great to the downside here, guys, for HYMC.
Oh, that's going to be one to look at. With only about 7 minutes to go, remember there's always that I guess the meme-ish aspect to HYMC, so you do want to be careful with any trades there. But we did mention the chips. I think you talked about Marvell. I didn't really get into AMD. The levels from yesterday, pretty much the same price area I think we're looking at, right? And it's that 89 quarter down to the mid 80s on the 15-minute chart. Let me zoom in so you can see a bit better. Yeah, and this is what we look at on the 15-minute chart here. It's a higher level support in front of that double bottom, just at 88. That's where I want to be buying the dip. You can see clearly exactly where it got to yesterday. It was a double top from Friday at 91.50. That's the other level to watch on AMD. AMD, the one that I'm choosing to trade it in. And then that EVOK, remember it got to that 140 on the daily. There's your level 140 and change, where it rolled over last time was pretty much in the mid 30s. It just got to that price, and there are tons of sellers up here. So I'm gonna play this off the open. If we don't get through 140 at the open, I'm looking to short this level. It's going to be a crowded short. because this is very, very cheap to borrow. You did have to pay, but it's super cheap. So there's going to be a lot of people on the short side of this trade, at least day traders, in front of this 140 level. So you can't get too stubborn about it. I'm not going to be very stubborn, but it's worth a look, up 230%. After it breaks, if it breaks this level and gets to 150, there's a lot of room to the upside, so no stubbornness there.
So for anyone watching or wondering why I haven't talked about Marvell, yeah, I think I did talk about Marvell when I talked about chips, but I'll just go over it real quick because there were some questions about the Marvell position. It's just a double reversal here from the break of that low of March, right? March 14th low, which kind of goes across the board for a bunch of different markets and the equity futures as well. So the fact that we got underneath on Friday and then snapback rally right above the high on yesterday with a strong close, with no pre-market activity that says, you know what, I got to worry about this. Yeah, I want to play against this. So that's what I am. I'm picking up some longs here on Marvell. Again, stop is going to be, where did I put the stop? It's going to be a little bit further south of 60, but here we are working the 60s right now. If we keep going down, I'll have to call it a day and just, get out. If we break preferably the 59s, I'll just call it a day. Actually, no, it's not even 59 I have. I actually have the lows here, 58. If we end up breaking 58, I'll just call it a day, because then it makes the daily chart so much messier, right? Because then 58 low would then take us right back to new lows, confirming everything that we had yesterday, or not yesterday, on Friday, which is going to be a break of the low. So that's a problem. We're going to see if we can get a run today. If we can't get a run and we end up taking the lows, I'm done. We're going to call it a day on Marvell. Brendan.
A few minutes ago, let's talk about JZXN buying up this morning Geely Autos, or Geely's EV dealer division in China. So that was the news for JZXN. Pretty obvious on the daily chart. This is $2. So a very obvious pivot on the daily. $2 for JZXN. We got to 250, immediately got rejected back below 2. So $2 for JZXN, guys.
Yeah, another one that last on the watch list was that AVDL. Sorry, you'll see me in position in it. They had the big drop in the afternoon yesterday. I mean, big drop. It was a huge drop. It dropped from $6 to $4, got halted, opened back up in the aftermarket, and the company commented that there had been no material change. I mean, they've got it's a narcolepsy drug that I think there was some speculation there would be a negative update on there, but there was nothing that came out. That's what they said. It rebounded close to that $6 range. It then had a bit of a gap up when retail came in at about 7:30 or so, getting it back above $6, and then it hard reversed exactly where it fell. So the thesis here would be, okay, well, maybe where there's smoke, there's fire, and let's just play the short off of the aftermarket resistance at about 580. Got 75s or 74s on the short side of the trade, and want to be giving it to that 6 to 625, exactly where it was when it had the drop off. I think there's plenty of room to be able to be played there. I just got into EVOK. With only 3 minutes to go till the open. Remember, 140 is that key price level. So a bunch of trades on already. Some of the longs have not come in just yet. And then just to remember, we did mention Rivian, and I'm glad this got brought up in the hands of the Ford News. The fate on Rivian would be if it tries to take out this 34 and gets up towards that 35 level. I wouldn't be sitting in the short just yet. I'd rather see it try to get up on any kind of strength and then fade it in front of those levels.
All right, I'm just quickly looking at imbalances here. You guys can see it on the board. Twitter's there still, buy side, 400,000 shares. 1.4 has already been paired, so they've already found a seller for 1.4 million shares that they need to buy, and then they've got 376 left. It's unusual, but Hera, HERA, 484K to buy, but it's only done 2K in the pre-market. What is going on here? I'm looking at the chart too. It looks like that. So I don't know what that's about, but that's unusual here. Hera, top leader right now, 484, which isn't a much. This is not much at all, but this is kind of what you're dealing with here. I just noticed. Yeah, what the hell? Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm out of UPS. UPS
that was
just
bad.
got out.
Okay, call it a day. If UPS just fell apart here south of 170. Okay, that's an early hit to start the day. But for the most part, Hera is going to be the leader here with GPAC running up the number 3 spot. Not much. Pretty light here on the imbalances.
Yeah, not a heck of a lot. Actually, it's worth mentioning that Twitter imbalance is completely gone. So that first level gone on UPS. I did say I like it for a couple of possible trades there. I want to see it try to hold at the open, that 188 level. That's the trick of the pre-market, guys. It's going to be a little bit more thin. I don't like holding through all the way. That's why we're going to be able to get out of it. If we do end up holding 188, I'd almost see that, like I said, as a bit of a separate trade. It's got to happen first. Late action, I was just asked, what do I think of Twitter? I think you can play consolidations. The first one will be that 51 to 51 and a quarter range. Let's throw up the Twitter chart here just because I know we're going to have to go over this time and time again. That's just the afternoon support, like what it put in after the speculation that the deal would come at the end of the day. That's what the market got. That's the first level I think worth defending. And then take 5-10 cent scalp trades. I think that's going to be the way to go on this thing. 30 seconds to go until the open on Tuesday. Can the market hold the gains? Right now, it doesn't look like it. Ms. V is going to be on the bell. We'll try to do our best, but you got to trade what the market gives you. We had a great day yesterday. Doesn't mean the market's going to hold up, especially in front of those Alphabet and Microsoft earnings that we're going to get after the bell here today. Speaking of the better bell, here's ours coming up in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and ring it, Ms. V.
Ooh, that was ugly. All right, so I got myself back into UPS because I thought there was nonsense going on there, but
Did it bounce 85?
Yeah, it bounces. It got south of 85. It looked like just a run on stops. That's why I got back in, but this is not looking pretty already. We just got right back in. I'm waiting for it to settle in here. It still hasn't opened up. UPS, you can see the level 2 is still not open just yet. So we're waiting for this to open up. Once it opens up, if it stays down here, I'm going to walk away from this. Here we go. How are we doing this? It looks like 185,
so
45. Thin. It's still thin here. Yeah. Oh man, this is not okay. Okay, call it a day. Just take the hit.
Yeah, like that. It's so thin out there, and it's like that's why the stop bet was almost too easy. Oh, I knew there was something we forgot to go over very, very quickly here. I forgot to mention Veru. I knew there was something we were missing here. Veru, yesterday's price actually had the big breakout, and I know room was all over that trade. It dipped in the afternoon about 1 o'clock to this 1280 level, and then ran away again. So I'm looking at this 13. I have a 3-minute chart up. You can see what 13 did before. I got the dip buy just now. That one came in pretty quick. So my stop's going to be beneath that 1280 where we had a higher, we had that higher low, and then just give it to that price level. See if we can't get back up and challenge those 14. So just got the long in Veru. I'm in that EVOK, which is starting to roll over just a little bit. Gonna have to zoom back in for you guys here. It tried to test that 140 again at the open, so it did the pop and fade. I tried to get some more short at about 135. That's where I wanted. I wanted in that mid 30s because if we take out the 40 level, significant price here, you can have an absolute runner on your hands if it does go through. But for now, so far so good on EVOK. Yeah,
UPS is falling apart here, so it's going to be an early hit to start the day here on UPS. Aggressive to the downside, still going too. It's south of 134. I'm running through my alerts to see if there's anything else I want to pick up here. We've got J&J for whatever reason. That's an alert. I got to figure out which one, what the read there is. It's an alert.
Probably short.
Back north of, no, it's back north of 185. 186, I mean. J&J?
Oh, if it fails that top?
Oh, if it breaks out that top, it's getting back above there. So if it can stay up there, I'm going to go for the long here on J&J. There's a few other choices that I have here as the market actually comes off a little bit further. So again, in an area that I can potentially buy, but I am going to wait for some longs here. Brendan.
One we've been dealing with the past couple of days, guys. RDBX took out that high from the pre-market, immediately got rejected on huge volume. So back below 450 here for RDBX.
So I'm like sitting here like I hate you, GE, because I'm like, why didn't I get filled? 85 broke, and I didn't get squat on the short trade there. Yeah, I mean, it broke at the open. I had to stop in there. It looks like it just needed to be more aggressive. GE falling like an absolute rock. I'm going to have to find a way to be able to get into this one. I don't want to chase it too far. Aftermarket lows was this 83.25 level, so there's a chance that it could try to bounce off here, and then I'm fading this one. But it's got to be short. It's got to be short back into 85 on General Electric. Hate the guide. Look, I like the company, hate the guide. It's just too bad here. And it looks like it has room all the way to 80. That's just a horrible level break for them. AMD just popped in there, and EVOK is starting to roll over. This is why we sort of pointed out that 140 level for you guys. And again, I'm going to try to ring register here a couple of times on EVOK. It just came back into VWAP at 120. Got to be able to take that off. Like that's a 10% move ultimately. So I know it's up 200%, and maybe it falls to $1 again, but you got to be able to take this one off when it starts giving you that profit. Next level 110, and then $1 after that.
All right, we're still waiting on J&J to kind of settle up here around that 186. Maybe a long there is in play. I'm looking at SHW, Sherwin-Williams here. Nice little breakout. Multi-month breakout here of the last high we put back in early April, and then also a little attempt here back from February as well. So we could get going here on Sherwin-Williams. If I can just get low enough to get me a fill. It's spread. I mean, it's only done 276K. We're a couple minutes in, and the spread is about $2. So be very, very careful if you do decide to play this one here. But I do think there's a chance here against that 266, 265 area with a stop that could come in a little bit further south. You're going to have to go into the 250s to take that shot. But again, with the spread, with the movement, you can get move if you can get the right prices here. So it'll be good risk reward to the upside. That's one option. And then J&J is still working with those 186s to the upside. Visa is an option because it broke through 208 to the downside. So that's going to be an interesting one. So Visa, although the earnings are coming soon, it is on a downhill move here to the downside. As it takes a look at maybe potentially yesterday's lows. They're not that far away, so that could be an option as well on the short side for Visa. And then we've got Archer ADM as well, which was above that 95, which is backing off a little bit. I'll talk about more about that once I figure out what I'm going to do, because it did snap up and then come right back down. So we're going to wait a little bit on ADM.
I just got the first hit buy on that AMD. It's basically right at that 89 level, 89.5 with big support there. Almost a bigger story is Twitter just crashed through support, what presumed support. There was nothing to be seen on that 51 level, or sorry, that 51.5 level, and then nothing at 51. So you're coming all the way back into this 50 and the 50-50s. Once it starts to try to settle down, I mean, to sell the news. Now keep in mind here that there's always going to be institutions that sell this type of thing because they think they can do better, and that's just a reality. You will find some sell action when you get buyouts. I didn't expect that it would be this heavy on Twitter. I thought there'd be a few more buyers that found that enticing, especially in a falling market. But that's the absolute opposite. Once it starts to settle down, then you can start thinking about the scalp range. But when it's this violent, you do not want to be standing in front of that absolute freight train. What it looks like right now, that AVDL, I did get a fill on AVDL on that short side trade. It just broke the floor at 550. The next target is 25s and then $5. There were buyers at $5 on this thing in the pre-market. There might be buyers again at that price. So I don't want to get too stubborn with this not taking our profit. I don't think it's going back to 4 because there was no material change here. Like the company came out and said there was nothing doing. Essentially, it was much ado about nothing. I just think it's a fade from where it fell.
All right, we got a nice little winner running. Make some of that money back from the UPS trade here. Pepsi making a move now. Okay, did you end up getting your Pepsi fill too? You got it, right? No. Okay, so I got the 172.65.
Yeah, right, I did.
It didn't seem like we went too much further than that. But anyways, we are now working with 175 to the upside. So here we are up $2 on Pepsi, trying to control some damage here from UPS. Next up is in terms of targets, it's going to be that 176 into 177. If we go to the daily, do we have space? We definitely have space. We definitely have space all the way up towards these highs. So if first target is going to be that 170, I got to figure out actually, am I going to use 177 or am I going to use 176? Let's split it down the middle. 176.50 is going to be your first target, and then after that, we're just going to trail it through and see if we can take out the highs there. So for now, Pepsi up $2 in the money, Uber's flat, and then Marvell not having a good time here. Well, how's Marvell doing? I do like the daily chart on Marvell. It might be a all-day type of situation here, but a rough start to Marvell here as it backs through that 60 and down to that support point, which is around that 59 area. Remember, we're sitting below 58, so we should get some bounce action right through here. If we can get that, north of 61 opens up probably another entry to the upside, and then see if we can get it back down towards that 60 or back up towards that 63. So that's kind of the play right now. I'm still waiting on J&J. Still no fill on Sherwin-Williams. Visa is actually potentially a low break trade, but that's got to happen fairly soon, I think, to go for that short. And then FedEx is an option as well. I'm actually bidding into Fed. Am I?
Watch out, they're rug pulling, Rivian rug pull. So that's like GE 1, Rivian now 2. Like it's going to be, like the shorts are working. Veru's basically flat. Veru did go in the money. I just didn't take it out when it got to those mid 30s. I might take some off when it does this. AMD looks like it's going to be testing the bottom as well. So that long doesn't look like it's going to hold up. Rivian just absolutely cratered. So we like the short to pop. I wanted to see it test 34s as usual. When I like the short to pop, it doesn't always want to give you that trade. And that's exactly what ends up happening here. So watch out below. And speaking of watching out below, Tesla starting to work down. I don't know why I'm missing data on this chart, but either way, just broke down back through 990 as this approaches that 970. Remember, 970 key price on Tesla. That's the one worth watching. Veru, I did mention that we got the long on that trade. I didn't take any out the first time it got back into the 1330 range. If it gets there again, I will do so. Going to be a chance to reload, I think, at 13 even. So I'm going to hop back on the bid for Veru, just make sure we get a shot at that there. And Twitter didn't quite get all the way down to where I would have liked the consolidation. It would have been a little bit closer to this 50-50 area. It's looking like it's trying to bounce off of 50-60. So we'll ring the register Really, congratulations. So we never hit that key enough. By the way, Bitcoin making a bit of a recovery on its own, but that's for Veru as it tries to get back to the upside. But Twitter, at some point, I expect it to tighten up the range. You want to be patient with that. It's not guaranteed it has to happen, but it should eventually.
All right, we had a rough start with UPS, but FedEx is looking real strong. Man, FedEx is looking real good here. 202 is what I'm thinking now at this point. I'm not going to pay up 205. I want to see if I can grab into the 204s for the long right now. The spread is still 50 cents, though. We're going to wait a little bit more. See, it's only done 100K. That's going to be tough. Man, okay. Yeah, see? Okay, we're not going to touch FedEx. This is getting messy. Although I like FedEx, the volume is so light. It's only done 115K since the open. Is that it? It's not even ticking. Okay, yeah, it is ticking, right. So only very light volume to start the day. So you know what? Although I like the FedEx chart, the volume is a little scary for me. So we're not going to get involved. We're going to leave UPS alone. It broke everything I needed to, that I potentially thought it could break. And then FedEx is doing well, is set up, but the volume isn't there to support a trade. Futures still heading to the downside, so we're going to leave that one. We're not ready for the longs yet. I am looking for long. Remember, all the way down to 35. If I can find a long on the futures here, it'll be nice, but at the same time, respect the trend. The current trend is, like I said, attempted moves up have been sold off in the pre-market, so we're going to have to leave it alone. Maybe we catch a bid somewhere in the 40s, high 40s, low 50s. If we can't get that, then we're going to have to leave, just pass it up and just carry what we've got. Right now, we've got 3 longs. We'll leave it as is. Brennan.
One that can be a big mover here, Cassava Sciences, guys, just popping up, just double checking there wasn't anything on this, but starting to move a little bit. Took out 22 right through to 23.5 for SAVA.
Sava, we like that one when it's going to be a mover, so we'll get right to that in a quick second. However, we're going to do this one for EVOK just broke through 115. It just got down to a 112 here. So the next leg out in front of 110. And the reason for, I understand it could get down to support. It looks like that would be like 90 to 95 cents. But $1 is always a psychological level with stocks like this. So when I see something like that, I'm always going to get in front of it. I think I'm going to be probably, not all out, we'll get the next leg out in front of $1. Try to hold through in case it breaks. But I do anticipate it has a shot at bouncing off of that price level. I'd mentioned Veru, I would buy the dip. Now it's starting to come back in. The second time, so we got some shares out in the mid-30s. Didn't do it the first. We took it the second. I'll buy the dip again at 13 even to see if it can hold that price here. AMD trying to hold up here. Instead of tempting fate, I'm just going to do it the easy way, which is flip my black chart up for you guys. So it does manage to hold out around that 1850 area. That's where it's consolidating now. It has to hold this line and give you the bounce back up into that 89.25 into 90 range for this to work out. It does look like that top end is not going to come into play at 91.50, at least not yet. Need to find a way to get into General Electric. That's going to be a swing and a miss. Sometimes you've just got to be more aggressive with stop orders, especially at the open, because their spreads are always going to be bigger. So I need to cancel the orders that I have. I'm not going to get the prices we wanted at the open. It looks like I'm shorting a pop is going to be the only way to go here. I'll try 84s first, but GE, there's room to 80, so we want to be in part of this move at some point.
Yeah, I see you, Marlon, mentioning Sherwin-Williams there. Yeah, I've got bids out. There's no way I'm chasing it up into the 270s. I can't price it this high because of the risk profile here. So I didn't get my fill. Although they attempted to come down here at 930, they didn't come down low enough with enough volume to get me filled. So we're going to leave it alone, especially as we're stabilizing north of 270. Given that I'm trying to price around 266-ish. It's already gone $4 from where I would want it, right? So I'm going to cancel the order. We're going to walk away from this one because at this point it's not happening. So Sherwin-Williams, we're going to ignore that read, or we're going to cancel that read, remove the alert because we didn't get the fill. It's gone too far because if I was in position and went like this, I would start managing it already. So in my head, if I know that I'd already be managing it, then there's no point in getting the fill next time it comes down because something has changed. The technicals have changed for me. So we're going to walk away from Sherwin-Williams. If you caught it early, looking pretty. If not, we're going to leave it alone. But there goes Pepsi to the upside, working that 175s. Come on, Pepsi. If we can get going north of that 175, probably opens up a door. I do have some offers out to get myself some profit targets here. So we are waiting for some, I thought I had an offer out. No, I don't have an offer out. Oh, no. Okay, I accidentally canceled that offer, but I will put it back. But it is going to be a little bit higher, a few points higher from where we are right now. Futures still heading to the downside. We accelerated. Last time I talked about futures, we were in the 60s, and now we're in the 50s, getting closer and closer to that exit point. Remember, the the cut point on this trade is going to be 35. I'm okay with longs until we get to this point. Once we break this, obviously my long reads are done, but at the same time, the trend is strong enough that I can't go for the long right now. It's pretty clear. NASDAQ is down 1.5%, S&P down 1%, moving and accelerating to the downside, and somehow Pepsi's holding up well. But we're still in a buy zone. That's the only reason I'm confident with these longs is because we're still in a buy zone. This market can still turn around. There's still a chance. It doesn't look pretty right now, but there's still a chance. So that's why I'm okay with looking for longs that are in deep territory that can be decent to the upside. Apple is entering that territory. Potential longs, obviously a huge fallout earlier, but Apple, there goes Sherwin-Williams to 72. Damn it. Apple, getting to the 60s. And then Microsoft's doing the same thing with 276. So there's opportunities. We just got to find the right one that actually is going to hold up well.
Yeah, and speaking of hold up well, it's been essentially like a market, not necessarily flushing itself down the toilet, but 1.6 on the NASDAQ that we are now down. I was anticipating just getting stopped out of the AMD long. We got to get out of that one as well. It's only the shorts that are working, and one just came in. That was DWAC off that 38 level. It popped, tried to break 38, and then you see the reversal. So that was one that we said we were going to play the fade, but have to let it get to that price. It does. We have 37.82s just underneath that 38. Going to take some out 37, 36, 35. It found support in the afternoon for sure. We want to make sure we're taking some profit down at that price range. Got to be involved in DWAC, especially after the Twitter news. That is settling down, by the way, a little bit. So if you are still tracking Twitter, it's looking like it's trying to hold out at around that 50-50 range, and that's going to be where I think if it starts consolidating there, you start trying to play the ranges on Twitter. DWAC, I should be close to taking a first leg of profit on DWAC in just a few seconds. And I'll tell you that General Electric, it's like, look, we talked about the guide being poor and not liking anything that they said in the report. It just can't even give you like a pop to short. Like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for an opportunity to get in without chasing it to the bottom. I don't like the idea of shorting 82 into 85, 88. So I'd rather be getting something closer to that 84 range. So trying to have some patience, anticipating there could be a pop, and then hold on to and floss it off for your short trades if you have them on here. Like I just said, we get DWAC that first out in front of 37 any second now. That one's come in looking for 36 and then 35 on DWAC. But yeah, the longs for now have not worked. EVOK just touched $1. So we just got some of that out at $1.03. If it can manage to rally off there, I'd probably play the short again, but only off of that 140 price. I know it's a wide range, but I don't like shorting a lower high on this, not when it bounces off $1. $1 is a psychological level, and a lot of times I'd short the lower high, but it's never really worked out for me when one of these bounces off $1, trying to short that first level to the upside. So I'd be very patient on any reload here. For now, it's working. It's just about managing the trade. But in terms of getting back into it, I need it to pop a heck of a lot more to retest that 140 level. So, all three of the shorts working. Veru just gave me the reload that we're looking for at 13. First time we're in front of it, maybe a little bit too much. So a little bit tighter to that 1280 level with a 13 reentry point. I'll play it right back to the quarters and then the 50s and want to hold on to a piece just in case this stock can get past $14. It is down, the market is weak, but it's one of the few ones that put in a good bounce on the way that we were anticipating it could be a dip buy. That's the only dip buy that worked for me. UPS and AMD both didn't work. Veru, I don't want to say holding out hope, but it's the last one that I liked that got the fill. Ford never came in.
All right.
Where's Ford?
Yeah, I mean, UPS was ugly. Ugh. Okay, Marvell, still out 83 cents. It is looking like it wants to stabilize here, maybe around the halves, 59.5. That's fine. Again, we have space, so it can take as long as it needs. Just don't continue that trend. Remember, we're expecting strength here through these halves. So the fact that it's bouncing, at least even going sideways, that's a win for the most part. So if we can just get that acceleration back up, that we can get going on that. Marvell, and then Uber's flat, and then Pepsi's still going to the upside with $2.30 to the in the money. Futures bouncing, which makes me think, hey, can we pick up some more longs? Maybe Brendan has something for us.
Another low float name that's been moving around the past couple of days, just popping back up again. SKYH, Sky Harbor Group. Big move yesterday, back to 10.5. Just took that out on decent volume, guys. 10 million float on this one.
Sorry, just Tesla just broke that 970 area, so it's in that target range. If you look at that bottom from yesterday, about 65. So Tesla just got into the pocket here, and we'll see if it can make a bit of a bounce. Yeah, did I get it? Yeah, I just got it. It's 67.75. So 72s. I was just looking for it to actually make a bounce in that pocket area because that low is all the way down to 960. Let's be honest about where it got to yesterday in the pre-market. So I want to see it bounce back until it gets above 970 or reclaims that 970 level. There's no celebrating to be had here. But when the market is weak, sometimes you've just got to be a bit more patient and allow it to get down into the target range and then hold serve for a little bit, and then jump into the trade. So we'll see if Tesla has the juice to get back above that 970. The market is attempting to bounce here. But remember, this is a weekday. We're in a down market. Cannot be stubborn. I will not average into this trade. If we break yesterday's low, just have to be able to get out of it and get away from the Tesla trade because this market is only going one way. Right now, it's just southbound.
Yeah, every time it bounces up, it catches an offer, it continues its southbound move. I mean, I saw it in the pre-market, there was a problem, but I was thinking I had a decent read to the upside because of how we ran the day yesterday, especially into the close too. So kind of, I looked at this and go, yeah, you know what, there could be a sell side move. We're not gonna, go after the sell. We're gonna go after the long because I still like the daily read, especially with the volume we got late in the session. So I'm looking for value plays at this point, but it ain't looking pretty. It is not looking pretty. If I were to average out the current three positions, I'm still net positive. But again, we can't forget about UPS being an issue earlier today. And then I thought about FedEx as well, but FedEx is not, again, volume is too low. It looks really good too, but I just can't get past the volume on FedEx here. It's only done 263K and we're already, 20 minutes into the day. That's a problem. Sometimes you got to pass up these names if we're going to keep on, stay with the low volume. In terms of relative strength, and I played Microsoft yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, I played Microsoft with relative strength. Either yesterday or Friday, I can't remember. And there's nothing that I can go for in the index that actually has relative strength. We've got Apple. This move to the downside is run by Apple, Microsoft down, all pretty much equivalent to what the NASDAQ is right now. You've got Amazon down 2.5%, so that's doing worse than the index. You've got Tesla up there down 3.5%. And then you got NVIDIA down 3.5%. NVIDIA is having a rough start. And then you got Facebook there. Maybe Cisco is relatively strong. That's only down 0.5%. That's a big win, I guess, in this kind of market. Cisco finding stability. Let's take a quick look at the daily. Can we maybe go look at long at Cisco? I already have an alert out. I want to go long north of 52. So I've already considered Cisco as a potential relative play, relative strength play, but it's not priced yet. We can't trade that one just yet. So let's go into the S&P now. What do we have? I'm not seeing a whole lot of big ones that maybe JD is doing well, and that's stable. Walmart, okay, Walmart's actually flat on the day right now. So Walmart's been, a retail play that's been doing well in the past. Let's see what the Walmart daily looks like.
Tesla just broke down that 960. It's gone. I mean, it's down 4%, but realistically, that's not a stock that at that level I wanted to give $15, right? We'll take the hit when it takes out that 960. Doesn't look like it wants to hold that level just yet. Maybe there's a consolidation play there, but for now, you got to do that one for the overall market. I finally got into a GE short, and it was at 83, so not even 85 that we wanted, but it's the first leg to be able to get into. The only long, and again, I could go over the shorts that I'm in, but it's they're in the money and they're all working. The only long that's working is a small cap, and that's Veru, and it was a dip buy. It just got back up to that 1360 level, so I made a mistake by being off a week and then forgetting that this was in play yesterday. Thankfully, Arun reminded me. So today we were looking at it and able to catch this one off the open a couple times. It still has to get through 14, and even if it gets through 14, it's got this 1450 level that maybe it's a little bit easier to see, $14.50 to $15 up on the daily chart that it has to chew through as well. So it's got overhead of resistance. There's no mistake about it, but the volume's starting to come back into this one, and it's going to be worth trading. I just said I got into GE finally. Sometimes the only thing to do is you miss the first trade, play the next level down. It tried to get back up to 84. It just failed at 83. So when I saw 83 fail, I got in actually at 82.98. So really not that bad of a price. I'll see if I can't scalp some out in front of the low of the day. I want to have something on board just in case we're breaching this low. GE, General Electric, is approaching SSR. So GE is almost close to that 10% down on the session. That's how bad it is for them. And the market approaching 2. Brendo?
Strength side of things, guys, we're still seeing a 1.17% move for oil. So some of the oil names still holding up pretty well if we do get a bounce in the overall market. 1% here for Oxy. We're right at this consolidation from yesterday.
Bye-bye Tesla.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye Tesla. There goes 950 on Tesla as it accelerates to the downside. Oh, no, they're still holding on. They're barely holding on, but they are holding on to Tesla here. You can see it on the bid here. And are we gone now? Nope, still not gone. Still working that 950. Apparently there's an iceberg there that's willing to eat it all up. Take all the shares that you want. Yeah, it's an iceberg order at 950, taking all the shares that you want to throw at it. So willing to hold on for dear life here at 950. There goes 950. And there goes $2 to the downside. So Tesla accelerating. Remember, we said 965 was that level, the multi-day level that Tesla needed to hold. And we've cracked that in a big way to the downside as Tesla is now down 5%, breaking the support level, working 247. This is going to get ugly. So, just watch out. Technically, this doesn't look pretty. It doesn't mean that it can't come back, but it ain't looking pretty right now with Tesla moving the way it is.
No, not at all. And just on the other side, it's not the other end of the coin, but I know people are looking at it. There was no hold on Twitter. It couldn't hold that 50 level either. It's starting to fall off once again. So it's getting really close to that 50.25 price. And just going to be patient with it because right now, you've seen it. It's like shorts are working, longs are not working out. Hold shorts, take your profit where it makes sense to do so. And if you got a long that's working, congratulations. I'm not really seeing much of anything that is all that good. One from yesterday, and I did mean to go over ATER. This just put a huge capitulation in. This one ran late in the session, and we talked about this in the afternoon show, but it just died at the open. It tried to get through the high of the day and is now just absolutely abjectly tanking. So this will be a bit of a miss because I like that pop and fade style trade usually, but this is just fading time and time again here. It looks like there's pretty much nothing left for it. If you're stuck in ATER, it just broke last support at $5 or just below it. So another one bites the dust is kind of a cliche to say, but that's exactly what's happening. I just mentioned getting into GE. It's approaching the low of the day again. I want to stay on the short side of this trade at every single level that I can. If it gets back up to 83, it's going to be a reload. But this is now a hold until $80. I know this sounds crazy, but there's just so much room to the downside on GE once it makes this kind of a breakdown. Like this is uncharted territories since the split. 80 is the next psychological level, and I'm holding on for that one.
One stock that's not holding on, Roku. Roku is having a rough stretch here from $100, now working 95. And if you were to throw up the daily here, and this is actually leading, this is one of the largest movers in the tech world, I think. I can see it down just a shade under 7% here. It takes out, not only does it take out, we attempted to take out on Friday the low from March, as most stocks tried that March low. And then we attempted to bounce up and then a double rejection. Are you kidding me? This is not good on Tesla. Attempted bounce off of that break from Friday. Yesterday, a nice little rally all day too. Even with the market heading to the downside yesterday, we found stability around these 96s. And then we ran up all the way into 100. And then we come in today, and there goes Roku's last support level here around 95. So I'm definitely looking at Roku on the short side here. Let's just wait a little bit more, see if we can grab that short. And then we're going to have to work with maybe 97, maybe 98, but the risk is going to have to be up there. But the Tesla breakdown is opening up the door for a nice little move here. And hey, there's no targets at all. So I like those kind of trades. Valeria.
Hey guys, while Tesla is down more than 5%, SKYH is up more than 28%. Brandon mentioned that name earlier, and it's keep running. And we also got a super chat from Dominic Famularo. Hey Neil, we called SKYH yesterday. Care to look at that today? It's been a consistent mover the last month. So guys, maybe we can take a look at SKYH.
Oh, I remember it, Dominic. Great call, great shout out. It had so much trouble getting through that 11. And yeah, the breakout was really good at that $10 range, obviously this morning. So that's another one. I looked at Veru for the break under the similar premise, and Veru does the break, and I did not come back to SkyH. It was Veru that was on my brain. And this one is actually working better than Veru off of the 13 level. So I'll give you full credit for that. This 1120, it's finally gone. I think that's pretty key. If you look at probably where I think the resistance might be, it'll be at like $15. 13 is psychological, and it had a run down off of that level. It'll be hard to show on the 15-minute because it doesn't want to pull back that far. On the daily, you can kind of see it a bit more clearly when it gets to 13 even, but that's a weak level. I'd look more back to what happens if we pull back into $11. That's your only shot for a dip buy. I think 11 to 11 quarter. 13 and 15 are the next resistance level up, but great call, great shout out there. I wish I had picked it over Veru, but I can't sit here and pretend that I looked at it this morning. I completely failed on that one, so good shout out there. Speaking of Veru, that's starting to come back up here. I'm going to get to DWAC in a quick second, but Veru, like I said, this is why SkyH is better. Veru got to this 14 and then already starting to pull back right down to this 1370 area. So it's not really maintaining. It's more of a dip buy into support instead of a breakout, and a breakout can be more explosive on these types of names. So this needs to get through 14 and then get through 1450 to do what SkyH is doing. I said I would get to DWAC in a quick second. It just got down to 36. So like we said, if you've got the shorts on, those are just working out and they're starting to fall even heavier. But right now, these longs, outside of SkyH, Veru, I don't know what's working to you. What else is working out for you in terms of long trades? It just looks like the small caps. I know Pepsi was looking pretty okay, but not much else is working. It's just that short side of the trade. If you're looking at Tesla, which is just, this is why you've got to have stops and adhere to them and not just average in if you like a long. You got to be able to take the hit. Now we're down at 940. So if you want to try to find bottoms on these things, allow them to have some room. Like the NASDAQ is right back at these lows from yesterday. So testing these lows from yesterday. So if there's going to be a bounce, play off the levels that are there, not the levels that you want to happen. I can't think that 960 is going to hold and we'll get back to that price and just throw away $20. Now you're down at this 40 level where the market's trying to make a bit of a move. And if it can bounce, great. You can take a second swing at it, but holding and averaging in, it's just not going to work out. Already 10 o'clock. Wow, let's get to Brendan at the big screen for happening now.
Yeah, pretty negative, guys, right out of the gate here to start for the overall market. Red numbers right across the board to show you full percent and then some for the S&P now. The Dow 0.75 back in negative territory as well. We saw a little bit of strength coming from small caps yesterday. Not really the case again today. These have also turned to the southbound side right away. The NASDAQ leading, though. Different story from yesterday, 2+% now for both the composite and the 100. If you remember late in the day yesterday, that rally back was led by the NASDAQ and tech stocks. Quickly, TSX, trying to get positive here in Toronto for the TSX, a bit of a bounce back for mining stocks today. Ford, we were talking about the F-150, big flush off the open back to 15, but 15 a big level there, so it is trying to hold on decent volume. Pepsi, another one holding up nicely off that report, right near day highs. Not a ton of volume here, but 175 just above it there for PEP, guys.
Roku. What happened, man? I was waiting for you. You just left me. It's just me just waiting for the bus, and the bus just skipped right by as it takes off to the upside. Or downside, not upside. There's no upside. To the downside, there goes Roku now cracking 92.50 to the downside, and me waiting here. Hey, I think I can get 95, somewhere close to 95. We're already $2.50 through the bottom. Yeah, it's a day break. It's an aggressive move. We got NASDAQ now down 2.2%, accelerating to the downside. We've got no positive names. I'm not seeing any positive major tech names actually right now. The one chip name that I have is getting wrecked here, down $1.73 here. At least Pepsi is actually doing some damage control on the current three positions, but at the same time, we've got to do damage control overall. We got to find some shorts. If this market can break that 35, I can be more confident going for that short. I just don't want to step into shorts right now unless they're absolutely gold setups, right? I'm talking Roku type setups. Right now, with where we're sitting, we're still, although we're 5 points away or 6 points away from where I would say, hey, this market has gone absolutely to the sell side, even with this aggressive a move, I'm going to stick with my levels. My levels are telling me there could be a decent buy-side support bounce through these areas. So shorting right now is probably the worst-case scenario for some of these names until we break. Once we break that, I know support's gone. I know that we can actually just go for the shorts. But up until that happens, I refuse to go for shorts that are just, the Microsofts, the Apples. I can't do it. I just can't do it. But Roku, yeah, I can do it because it doesn't have that much influence in the tech name, right? In the tech index. So I'll wait for that one. But apart from that, we are just holding on to these longs and then doing damage control on the positions that we have. That's all you can really do at this point.
Well, it's not up in smoke yet. That's probably, I don't know what we're supposed to use that one for. I know we use it for cannabis, but we just broke the low of the day on GE. So we did get into that one. I'm pulling my black chart because I want to quickly go to another name right after, so I don't want to have to flip. But it looks like it's breaking that low of the day, or at least attempting to, and get to that 80 target that we slapped on it. And it wasn't 85 because we missed that at the open. Breaking out, SkyH broke through the high of the day. Veru also just broke through the pre-market high, but it has to get through this double top yesterday at 1440. That happens, I'm looking $15 here. Like, we got the dip buy, it's working. As I said, full credit on SkyH. That was, a lot of times you're going to get that better move, I suppose, on the breakouts, right? Like, and that's just the way it's going to go. Veru was the one I looked at. SkyH took the high of the day, actually reversing now, oddly. As I mentioned, it took the high, broke 12 even, now starting to come back in. The dip to 11 hasn't happened. Let's see if it can hold that one up, 11 to 11 and a quarter. As we said, the market now 2.5 to the downside, right? So this is getting pretty ugly, and that's why I'm not I don't want to force any of these longs anywhere, really. Tesla.
Twitter, he says.
Tesla's at 925.
Yep. Think about that 950 break, iceberg break, and down goes Tesla. So Tesla's having a rough ride. But again, a lot of people, we're waiting for, I don't say we're waiting for this, but at some point, when Tesla shares are put up as collateral, a lot of people were thinking, hey, is now the time for this type of move? But here goes Tesla, looking at 920. What do we have on the daily? If we were to now play the daily chart and we were to update it with the current value, it breaks through
like
here.
You know what I had to just do. This is why I said you got to get out, man. Like, you have to wait for.
There you go. I think, yeah, he picked up a nice little long there. Neil picking up some value purchases down below on Tesla, trying to make some money on the snapback because it is moving quite fast. So sometimes, when it moves this quickly, because Neil's got a stellar price. What do you have, Neil? 927.70. He's up $6 already on Tesla. Picking up some.
I don't know if it was on camera what I did before I punched long. I literally did this before I punched long. It was just like, do you see that drop? That's insane. Like, that's insane on Tesla. Like, we were just talking about the 950s. However, in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, what happens when we get down to that price? Like, we had already had, we just broke the 50 period as well, but you have you have the 200. You have the 200 period at 900. You had this price area at 925, which is a psychological level. There's an iceberg at 50, and then the 200s at 900. The only levels to play off at that point are going to be the psychological ones. So when it held 95s, I just took along on the way back up. I already scalped some out here. But yeah, if it retakes 925 here, I'm not holding through that price. I'm getting out. Like, we're just going to take it out. So we just took it out again. So even, like, that'll work out as a positive trade because we get the scalp and we'll be out of it. Now I'm just waiting for 900. I can't short, like, I cannot short it down here. I don't, like, it's a tricky short because if we catch a bottom, the stock just went $75 down, right? Trying to catch a bottom is, to me, one of the only reasonable things to do. Not reversing when we have an out, like, that one's it's gonna weigh on me. But I was looking GE short. That's the one that was on my mind there. I wasn't thinking Tesla short here. It just made another jailbreak. So this 925, it just got reclaimed. This market bounces from here. Tesla's got a lot of room to run. I got to find a way to get into this bottom. That 925, that was another failed breakdown on volume. I'm getting back into Tesla long.
I mean, this is exactly what I was saying about me refusing to go for these shorts until that 35 broke, right? Because there's still support here. We can easily snap back, and we just saw this 10-point snapback. It doesn't mean the trend to the downside is done. It just means that there's too much support to go after shorts right here. So you're looking for absolutely perfect shorts like Roku, which is completely gone at this point. And the other ones is pick up some value purchases in names that are actually doing relative strength here. So I'm looking at Walmart, I'm looking at J&J. Remember, 186 on J&J and Walmart 157.50, 158-ish. So those two names are actually holding up well. So I'm still going to go for these longs. Yeah, this is where you do those types of purchases. If you're looking, if you have your support point and this market's getting aggressive and that support area should bring some volume, why not pick up some stock on the cheap, right? So it doesn't mean it's going to turn around. It just means that, hey, there could be a nice little bounce up to play with. So as I say that, Pepsi is accelerating to the upside now. That's $2.38 in the money. And we are still trying to pick up some, J&J and Walmart as well. I'm just waiting a little bit for Walmart to actually, stabilize here a little bit because it is working with that 186 area. Not 186. I'm on the wrong chart. It's J&J. Okay. Walmart. Come on, Walmart. There we go. 158 area. And It is snapping back down a little bit here, so I'm going to wait a little bit. 157.50 is my turning point here where I would like to go for the long, but I want to see what they've got now that they snapped up and through 158. So on the way back down, can we find some stable bids? If we can, then the long is there on Walmart, and then the same thing with J&J as well around that 8 area or that 6 area. Why do I keep mixing them?
So I got back in for another quick scalp trade on Tesla, and again, it was 9.30 when 9.25 got held there. It was 9.30 into that like 35 to 37 area a second time, but it couldn't hold up at 9.30. So I'm going to go back to patience mode. It looks like it's not really a jailbreak to the upside. There were a couple of good scalp trades that were in there for you on the long side of that trade if you took them, but. Oh my goodness. So yeah, oh goodness, Viru. Yeah, so Viru got to $15. I was about to say, yeah, let's celebrate that one. But I need to cover this one because the turn, when a stock like this gets to $15, and that's the price level that I'm looking at for a potential resistance level for like a reversal to the short side of the trade, I'm always going to take it out. Like, could it go to 17? Of course it can go to 17. But if I see a short setup, it's not really... That's a get out of your long. You got the home run trade. Like, that's what you're looking for. It took out that top. It was able to get through that 1440. But just like yesterday, I always thought that 15 would be overhead resistance. So I'm going to get out of that trade. There it is. Like, that's the only long that I'm going to be up on today. I made a bunch back on Tesla by doing those scalp long trades, but Veru's the only one that held up for us there. So thankfully, we were able to get it. I have completely, and it's not intentional, that I'm neglecting like DWAC or anything else, but you can see like that 38 short, still holding it. It's been testing 36. We've already scalped that portion of the trade, so that's working out. If it breaks 38 or breaks 36 now, we're looking for 35. If it can hold that, fine, we'll get out and try and capture like a $2.50 to $3 winner there. That EVOK died. It did break $1 eventually. We talked about 90 to 95 cents. That's where it looks like it's going to try to consolidate here. If it does, fine, I'll just get out of the last of it. But just to get, it's the shorts that are working out, whether it's the small cap rollovers, whether it's your big cap trades. I would say General Electric, however, despite breaking that low, it's starting to decelerate a little bit here. So when the market really flushed, the GE short, which is already down 9%, let's be honest, right? Starting to decelerate a little bit. So maybe it's running out of juice to get to 80. If the market were to bounce from here, something already down 9% could be one of those, I guess people pick it up on value, as you were saying there, Arun. So I got to watch out for GE. It's still a good short, and I want to play it to 80 even. But you got to be careful when the market is down this much, when it tries to catch a bid. Anything that's overextended to the downside, you don't want to give away your profits. Brenda, what's up, bud?
I just saw somebody mentioning Blink charging. There was a headline or an acquisition, I guess, this morning for Blink. My chart is not working here. They are moving into the UK with an acquisition, but there's no volume here. So I saw somebody mention it, down 2.6 here for BLNK.
Charging. It is. We'll talk about the daily on this one here. It's had a storied past. You guys remember back in November and December where it was going absolutely nuts in the 40s, but now here we are back working support level areas here down in the 2021 area. So there's a chance for Blink to get going, but again, we need to get above that 22 to get going because that's where you would argue we spent the last 2 days in the highs, so that's probably the best opportunity for a bounce to get a run going. As you can see, I am doing value purchasing across the board, and for the most part, they're stable. So, relative strength, if this works out, though, if the market were able to actually catch a bid and turn around, these purchases might actually do well. But Marvell having a rough time with the rest of the tech world.
Oh, you know what? Are you back in UPS?
No.
So I didn't mean to interrupt. I just watched UPS. The wick bottom that it put in at the open through 183 down to 182. It's actually holding that price with the market trying to make a low as well. So I like the report, but if it can hold that low, that's not a bad base of action. You just have to be able to stop it out if it breaks 182. Ms. V?
Oh, hey guys, so what a busy day indeed. And I'm just super glad that we are here trading all together as a real community. And I really want to remind you to like this video, team. Please spend less than a second of your time, smash the like button. And I remind you, Kevin O'Leary will join us very, very soon in around 15 minutes. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Ms. V.
Rather uncomfortable, man. Any sort of bid that I thought I had any sort of bid action, any sort of bid support. Again, just like the current trend, any sort of attempt up is being sold right back down. So we're not coming back down to these 40s on the futures. As you can see, I've got all longs here. So if we lose that 35, I'm going to have to start working some of these out, because then I'm not getting the strength that I'm getting or would have expected or at least look for inside of the support level. I mean, Walmart's in the money, Pepsi's in the money, and then J&J and Uber are out, and then Marvell has been getting clocked from the beginning. So that's not happening just yet. But again, until we break that 35, I'll stick with it. You know, that's just how I play my game. You got to force me out of my position before I'll walk away from it. So once I stick with it, it takes me forever to find a read, but once I get my read, I'm going to stick with it until I'm forced out of it. Brendan.
Another alert there on that AVDL. We were mentioning that just fell apart late in the day yesterday. So got all the way back to 6 there. Pretty impressive. So volume coming back into AVDL.
Thank you, Brennan, for mentioning that one. I was just about to go over to it, but before I go back to it, Veru just tried the break at 15, so got up to 15.10 and then put that failed break in. So that's the setup I'm looking for. If I think something's really strong, the way to sort of approach it is, it's not to say never short, and of course I didn't pay for shorts, I'm an idiot. It's not to never short it, but allow it to make a failed break first. Of course, I gotta go pay for those shorts right now, but that AVDL, I did just reload that, by the way, when it broke up to 6 even. Again, allow it to test the level and try to catch it on the way back to the upside. So it rolled to 520 off our first short, got to a 10% move, or almost a 10% move, and then we reloaded here at 6. I do wanna take some off at VWAP right here, and then roll it right back into the 520 level. I'll do that thing that Arun doesn't do and go pay for my Veru shorts. That might be just as crazy as going long in Tesla, but look, I like the setup. It did just fail 15.
Yeah, Veru was a nice trade yesterday, but on the long side, because, the longs are free. So we did play on the long side there on the yesterday as I look at the futures going, oh no, are we really doing this? Trend is accelerating. They're working the 35s now. There's a little bit of flexibility, off chance that this holds, but highly unlikely this holds. And if that's the case, these longs are definitely going to be in trouble. And I got to figure out how I'm going to cut some risk on this, because Pepsi holding up well. But I think if Pepsi were to lose, there goes 35. If Pepsi were to lose that 175 one more time, we're going to have to do some damage control by cashing out Pepsi, because it is stalling out. Although it's doing well on the day, we're going to cash out some of Pepsi south of 135. 175. Walmart's back underneath. So we may just walk away from Walmart if we're not getting the strength. J&J, I can cut the stop on this one a little bit tighter because I don't have the strength from the market. And there goes Tesla south of 920. We attempted 920, and then we're working 920 half. And there's some icebergs sitting there, because there's a lot of, there goes 920 again at 919. If you guys want to roll around and just scalp Citi on Tesla, there's money to be made with momentum. I just can't seem to find a way to do it.
Obviously anyone that's a shareholder is not going to be happy with this. And down 7.5%, I get it. I don't like the fact that Elon is going to be distracted. I don't like it at all. I had zero inclination that Tesla was going to do anything like this move. Now remember, as fast as it moves up, you got to talk about 100 times earnings or whatever the heck it trades at right now, and start factoring some of that into as well for Tesla. And the reason why you're not seeing me hunt for those longs, we're able to get some back with the scalp trades for the long side of the trade, but until it gets to 900, and by the way, that's going to be 10%. Essentially, when it gets to the 900 level. Let's keep that in mind too. It closed at 998 in yesterday's trade, so that's very, very important and psychological, and a big even dollar level. And I think that's what I would want to trade off if we get a chance. I did short Veru. I understand. Everybody knows the risk on shorting a Veru. I don't get stubborn with it. This is not my stop up here at 1550. That's how far I'm crossing up to make sure that I get the fill if it takes out the high of the day. So I'm tight to that high of the day. I don't want to lose more than 25 to 30 cents there. If it stops me out, it stops me out. The long was great, but the long to me was till it got to that 15 and then put in the reversal and we trailed it. And then I want to look for that next trade, and it was to the short side. I did pick up that UPS because if I have to pick a bottom on something that's making a low right now, as a NASDAQ test 2.5% to the downside and its support levels, then I'm going to go for something that actually reported well and has already made a capitulation bottom that it's not retaking. Like UPS made a bottom, and as the market continued to flush, it then held that low. That's the only long I'm willing to take. And if it breaks that low, I'm out. And if it can come back and the market bounces here, then there's room to 187, 85 to 87. That's the only long I like, unless I'm scalping something. And GE, we talked about that 10%. It just hit 10% to the downside. General Electric is SSR and headed towards $80. I wanted it at 85. I did not get to fill because I was not aggressive enough. We talk about this all the time. At the open and in the pre-market spreads open up, you have to adjust. Expect more slippage, cross the spread a little more aggressively. I did not do so. I thought I had. I crossed to 84.77. Clearly, I should have gone to 84.50 and maybe I would have got to fill.
Yeah, I'm starting to, again, damage control. That's all I can do with the long bias up until this point. Clearly, we're not. That 35 gone, long bias is out the door. With Tesla driving, remember, Tesla's in the top index name, right? It's one of the, I believe, number 4 in the index. So it's got some weight. So when Tesla falls like it is, down 7.6%, it's taking the NASDAQ with it, which is now down 2.5%, S&P down 1.5%. That means with my longs, some of them are getting run over, clearly. So we did some damage control. We cashed out Pepsi, take the money, walk away to cover the hits elsewhere. We walked away from Walmart with a small 30-cent hit. Uber, I'm going to start dumping on the way back up towards that 32. J&J is, if it breaks, I'm tightening the stop on J&J because we had a chance to get going. If we can't get going, then I don't need to give it the full stop, especially if I don't have this market to support this read. So once we crack the lows here south of 185 and change, 185.40-ish, we're going to walk away from J&J, take the hit there, which will be about 40, maybe 50 cents or so. Walk away from that one. Marvell's too close to its stop, so that's why I'm not touching Marvell, although that's actually the current biggest loser. So again, damage control, that's all I can do. You're not going to win every single day, but when you are in a tricky spot, minimize the amount of hits that you are taking and minimize the damage so that you can come back another day, make your wins, and cover your hits, cover your losses, right? It's a mathematical game. As long as you're winners, I'm sure you guys do a ton of research and read into stuff a lot. As long as your winners are bigger than your losers, you should be good as long as you have equal amount of trades. So that's kind of the game that I'm playing right now, is just damage control on the losing side while we get to Brendan at the big screen.
Hey guys, few small caps to have a look at this morning. We mentioned this JZXN EV related news here in China for JZXN, $2. If you remember, I mentioned on the daily chart, pretty important level here. Came into play a number of times on the daily time frame. Did test up to above 210. So if you were looking at 2 exactly as a line in the sand kind of thing, as I was, I had to lighten up a little bit there at 210, put that back on. We're now fading back down through 170 is the low. However, yeah, volume a bit of an issue here for JZXN, already dying off. EVOK, that little one that popped up in the pre-market there, 140, 150. I mean, I just took the trade back to 1. I got out of it in front of $1. So one and done for me. RDBX finally gave you that move to the downside, 450, which was aftermarket. And if you go back on the daily chart, a significant level for Redbox Entertainment, back to 380. Guys, back to you.
Yo, I gotta do this one. I'm gonna give it like a home run because Arun just mentioned something about like Tesla. Catching a Tesla bid right now is like catching a falling knife with a latex glove. Yeah, you might get cut. I mean, look, if you're really good, maybe you catch a great price, but you might get cut if you make a move like that. So you might get cut up if you hold on and get too stubborn about something like that, Veru, right? So remember what we said, we show the winners, we show the losers. Tight stop on this trade. You've got to be willing to be wrong when something is that strong. So if it rolls over from there, great. We play it back into VWAP. It didn't happen. It broke. It got to 1550. I don't have a trade on Veru. The long is continuing to take off there. The only long, and again, I say this, currently, like other things could happen. Tesla could get to 900. Certainly that could obviously set up. But it was UPS, the first one that we stopped out when it didn't work. We talked about our stop being beneath that 190 level. Just take it. Don't average in. Don't get stubborn at 930. Allow it to base out. It made a capitulation bottom on huge volume. Obviously 930 always has volume, but on big volume at 82s, it then tested that as the market was bouncing or trying to bounce off lows. Right, so when we broke down, if you look at what the ES is doing, this is a 15-minute versus a 3, which is not the best way to look at it, but it's pretty clear. Like you are making continuous lows on the ES, and you were consolidating on a stock that had good earnings on UPS. That's why I do like this long trade. So it's the only one on the board right now. Every other long, I've either taken off as a loser, moved into trying to scalp it, which is what we did with Tesla to get about half back. Otherwise, it's hold on to your butts, hold on to your shorts. Some things that don't follow the market that are different shorts like DWAC, you do have to monitor, right? Like DWAC is going to try to make these squeeze plays back up to our key price at 38. I missed it when it made this reload here because I was trading other things. Tesla was going crazy, obviously. But if we get back up to this price, it can be worth the reload and then play it back to 37s and 36s. Hold on for those 35s and play inside. GE's now a couple of dollars in the money. It's still working its way down to that $80 level. However, it is slowing down. Like the pace of this just fell off a cliff at the open. When it broke that 82 bottom, it's a little bit more of a slow grind down to that level. So the trend is pretty clear here, but that 80 is just psychological. Like it's just an even dollar price level. There's nothing else tying it to that price. I expect there to be a bid there. If there's not, we can always try to hold through. But yeah, even GE down 10% today, and the bloodbath just absolutely continues. We have ignored, for the most part, some of the big tech. Let's not forget we get Alphabet and Microsoft after the bell. Don't always want to force trades on these. If you start thinking about where a bid could happen on Softy, you're really talking about this 73 to 74 area that we're sitting in right now. So it's getting into that target zone. But I don't want to get too early on any of these. And yeah, I see you 7 apes. EVOK is over that $1 range. I don't necessarily, like I did hold on to the short there. I said it could bounce it. I said it could bounce at this price range and then didn't really cover it when it got that little bit of a bounce. But we're pretty much out of this thing. And before, when it was bouncing or had a chance to bounce off a buck, I wouldn't have tried shorting it at lower highs. Like I wouldn't have tried it at 120 if it bounces off a dollar. I wait at 135, which is not worth doing right now. But if it cannot sustain this breakout through one here, it had one little wick here to 05, fell to 90 even. If it puts that same kind of move on, like there would be like a 99-ish short back into 90, giving it to that 04, 05 range that could be played here. The volume's great on the stock, by the way, and it does feel like it is, I don't want to say done for the day for the long side because it can always find a bid right now at $1. But I'm holding this for like 115 at this particular point. This market is just, it's dying, right? Like you want to find your shorts and hold on to them. I just can't force any longs here.
Yeah, it's like a hide your kids, hide your wife situation with Tesla on the hunt right now.
He's still on everything.
This is Tesla. You know what? I think it's better off that I show it than actually try to talk about it. It's Tesla. We're going to pull up the weighting on Tesla, right? It's Tesla, no, S&P 500. I'm just doing a quick search here. I believe on Slick Charts has it. S&P 500. There you go. All right, let's do quickly. Why do I have that? There we go. All right. This is a quick Google search. I tend to lean towards Slick Charts just because they have the weightings right there. This is the S&P 500, and this is the S&P 500. So there's 500 names in here, and it's not even the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is, you know, completely different story. There's 500 names in here, and Tesla is at the number 4 spot with 2.2%. So behind Apple, behind Microsoft, and Amazon, you've got Tesla down here at 2.2%, and then you've got the two Google class shares. So Tesla has a decent chunk of weight at the number 4 spot in the S&P 500. You've got Microsoft coming in with earnings later on today. I believe Google as well today, I think, or maybe tomorrow. I don't know.
Alphabet is aftermarket.
Okay, so Google or Alphabet and Microsoft later today. So you got the number 2 spot and the number 5 and 6 spots earnings reports. You got number 4 getting destroyed right now. Apple's just it can't do anything on its own. And then Amazon is also leading the market to the downside, down 3.8%. So you're not getting any help from the top of the list here on the S&P 500. And because of the weight that Tesla has the ability to influence this market in the direction. So here goes Tesla on the hunt to the downside. Are we going to see 900? That's going to be the question. They are stabilizing between 915 and 920, but it's going to be one of those. It's going to be one of those situations because the day's not over. We're not even halfway. It's only been an hour since the market opened. Tesla's move to the downside. Remember, 925 is the imbalance when the imbalance came out. Someone was mentioning it was a sell-side imbalance. Okay, sell-side imbalance, but we saw the imbalances. Tesla was somewhat light. Well, Tesla wasn't even there. The imbalances were somewhat light to start the day. They could have been sell, but they were somewhat light. So you could look in that direction, but Tesla's opening high is 1,000 even, exactly 1,000. At 9:30, we put that in probably seconds after the open. The opening high was 1,000 even. And then here we are down at 917. So, I mean, that's the kind of move you're getting Tesla when you do that and you've got a big index player doing that, it's going down. And rough roads all around. Again, I'm still doing damage control, so I'm going to cut J&G. I'm going to cut Uber on the as it comes back up in the event that we can actually get out of these with small hits. We've already taken Pepsi profits. We've already cut that small loser on Walmart. We've taken the big hit on UPS earlier. So it's just damage control. Marvell's not helping, but at the same time, Marvell's not bouncing. There's no help for Marvell because, again, chip names are getting wrecked right now. So as Marvell continues its move down, it's too close to a stop. So that's the only reason I'm not walking away from this. But at the same time, I have very little hope for Marvell to actually turn around and make money on. It's just going to be a matter of how small of a hit can it take. If it can get to 59.5, maybe I can walk away with like an 80-cent hit instead of what it is right now. So that's what, in my head, that's the math I'm doing here. See if we can actually walk away from this. Brendan.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, guys. You know him and love him from Shark Tank and Money Court on CNBC. He is the chairman of O'Leary Financial Group. He's a friend of the show. We're always happy to have our friend Kevin O'Leary back with us to give us his take on where we are at, because wow, this weakness in the overall market continues. Kevin, let's jump right into it. Lots to cover here. Inflation has been the story of the year so far. Inflation continues to drive the narrative really for the market. How are you protecting yourself at this point going forward on this show? Going back to January, I believe it was, we talked a little bit about how you were thinking maybe the second half of the year before we get any kind of improvement here.
You know, the real issue and why the market's fibrillating and, trading in a range is nobody knows what percentage of inflation, let's call it 6.5%, is actually transitory and how much is baked in. So the assumption now, there's a lot more data on supply chain, and I'll give you some interesting data points. Shipping rates, in other words, if you want to book a container from the LA port to Chicago, those have dropped 35% in the last 6 weeks. So there's a supply now of trucks and drivers. That's a good thing. On the other hand, getting the actual product into the LA port has not improved at all. So there's lots of evidence here that some portion of it is transitory. That's why you really haven't seen rates back up too much yet, because the Fed is probably, although they're jawboning another 50 basis points, I wouldn't be surprised if they did only 25 basis points in the next hike and then just waited to see what would happen, because it's hard to call recession right now when you have full employment. We've got full employment. Try and hire somebody right now in any sector. There's just nobody to hire. And so generally speaking, if you're going into recession, you get a dramatic slowdown. The first place you see it is in wages and employment percentages. And right now we're below 4% unemployment. So I don't see a major correction. I just see a lot of volatility ahead.
That being said, we talked a lot at the end of last year about these growth stocks that have had such amazing performances over the past 2, 3, even 5, 6 years. Not the case this year. Where is there a specific area of the market we should be looking at right now for some opportunity when some of these names, that we mentioned are down 60, 70, even 80+%?
Yeah, it's amazing. And a lot of these down 50, 60, 70, 80% stocks have not stopped growing. Their growth rates remain the same. It's just what people are willing to pay for them has changed dramatically. And I want to point something out. Prior to the pandemic in the tech sector, there was always a lot of volatility. And the granddaddy stock that teaches the lesson of volatility, I ask everybody to go back 15, 17 years, is look at how much Amazon corrected every year. Down 30, 40, 50, 60% annually, and then came back up. And we got used to that. And then all of a sudden, the PPP programs and the $4.5 trillion in the printing press happened, and flushing the system with liquidity during the pandemic, that stabilized all the FANGs. It was the go-to name with all the free money. I don't care whether you had Microsoft or Google or Amazon or Netflix. It was money coming out of the sky for free, and that's where people put it, in these big growth tech names. Now we're back to pre-pandemic volatility. Doesn't mean they're bad stocks. A lot of stuff is going on sale. And I think if you look at this 12 months from now, you're going to say to myself, why didn't I buy some Facebook at under 200 bucks? Why didn't I buy some Netflix after it corrected 50% plus? What about the sale going on and lots of other tech names? And so for me, it's again, I've seen this movie before. I'm a buyer here, and you can't pick the bottom. You can't. It's just impossible. You can look at the charts, doesn't help you that much. You got to average your way in on the big sell-off days, on Fridays at 900 points down, et cetera. We're back to the old times of volatility. No big deal. We really haven't had a real correction yet. You want a real correction? Try 20, 25%. That has not happened yet.
Let's go to the cryptocurrency space. And on that note, the Squares or Blocks of the world, the PayPals of the world, in that same group that we're talking about here, when it comes to what has happened in the crypto space this year, I mean, the volatility seems to actually, in some ways be following the equity market a little more closely. Is the cryptocurrency markets, in your opinion, has that become a little bit more of a hedge here in this environment?
Not yet. And the truth is about crypto, it's not yet an institutional product. There's a lot of good signs. Let's start with the signs of the different bills going through the bipartisan committees in the US on the Hill. You got the Haggerty bill on stable coins. You got the Toomey bill on stable coins. You have the Loomis bill, which contemplates all crypto. All of these things are moving forward. You had the announcement last week that BlackRock put money into Circle, which is USDC. And then Fidelity this morning, or late last night, announcing that they would allow in their 401k retirement programs up to 20% in Bitcoin and other certain coins. And so clearly the movement is towards putting policy in place on crypto. That's positive. Now the negative is Bitcoin 2022, a couple of weeks ago in Miami, they had to open a special day just for institutions on Wednesday. 1,500 institutions showed up. None of them own any cryptocurrencies. They're trying to figure it out. They know it's coming. They know policy's coming. Tomorrow, the FTX conference in Nassau, it is sold out globally. Governments from every state and country showing up there. I've never seen so much interest in an asset class that nobody owns. The truth is the whole sector is, Bitcoin's under $1 trillion, which is a nothing burger in financial services. So there's a lot of upside to come. And I think cryptocurrencies, you have to make one decision. Do you go long before the policy and regulation hits, or do you wait until the institutions can buy and pay significantly higher prices with more certainty? And I think that's the debate everybody has to have. I've made my decision. I have gone into 20% holdings across a wide range of crypto and crypto infrastructure like WonderFi, Immutable Holdings, FTX, and so on. Those are the equities I own, plus 32 other coin positions.
Let's talk about one of those. WonderFi announcing recently a second major acquisition this year with Coinberry in this country. Give us your take here on the environment in this country, in Canada specifically, and what the acquisition really means here going forward in Canada.
Canada is the most advanced on policy in the world. They were the first to allow an ETF with the underlying asset being Bitcoin, first ETF with Ethereum underlying asset, and the first to issue the BitBuy license, which was a crypto exchange tied to a dealer broker, first in the world. Now, that was purchased by WonderFi, and obviously there's a consolidation going on in the market. There's multiple exchanges out there, but the big challenge for all of them is customer acquisition cost. When you start to scale by combining BitBuy with Coinberry, all of a sudden you've got 700,000 plus accounts across Canada. These are compliant accounts, regulated accounts. And so we believe that the whole mission, I think, of the management at WonderFi is compliant crypto. Most Canadians tied to the banking system want to be on side with rules and regulations. They don't want to be crypto cowboys. They want to be able to trade it on a regulated basis and report their gains and losses to authorities, which is going to be required anyways in the US and Canada this calendar year. And so what's really going on here is consolidation. And in a consolidation that occurs in something like exchanges, it's about customer acquisition. The bigger you are, the less it costs to acquire customers. And one other thing I'd add to it that I think I can really tip the hat to the team at WonderFi, they saw early on, it's a classic Gretzky, go where the puck is going, not where it is now. People, it turns out, don't just want centralized wallets like BitBuy. They also want decentralized wallets, which is what WonderFi has. So with one account in the future, you're going to have both. And like some people like to put their NFTs in decentralized accounts, and in centralized accounts hold their Bitcoin. Whatever it is you want, WonderFi can give you this now on a compliant, regulated basis. And I think there's tremendous potential there. And I'm just thinking about the day that the Canadian banks look down south and see what Fidelity's doing for their account holders and want to do the same thing. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to WonderFi. They're the largest and own most exchanges. That's the game plan.
It's an exciting time for the company, indeed. I want to shift gears here and get your take on this Twitter Elon saga that continues. Have to get your opinion on. I mean, the deal obviously gets done yesterday. If you go back a week, I mean, no one thought this was going to actually go through and actually happen. Is this a positive overall for Twitter, first off, in general, and then for the entire social media space? What does this mean?
Well, let's talk about it as investors, because that's what we are here. Twitter is the most miserable investment you could have made in the last decade. You've made no money in 10 years. The rotating door of management there, giving themselves lots of options. Each team, more options. Zero value created for shareholders in 10 years. A board, prior to being taken over by Elon Musk, that didn't even use the product. I mean, that in itself is bordering on criminal, if you ask me. They don't even know what the product does, and they're sitting on the board of the company. It was a miserable, miserable, miserable investment. And finally, someone comes and puts them out of their misery. Those shareholders basically got their money back after sitting on this dog for 10 years. Now, having said all that, I think there's better times ahead for Twitter, because Elon wants to bring back the idea of an open cry forum that has all sides of the debate on it. That's important, because what Twitter was doing was just indiscriminately canceling voices and losing millions and millions of subscribers. I mean, I can't think of a worse management team there, and I hope he just gets a spatula and cleans them right out, because they were useless. Now he has a chance to take this platform, which is global. He's been using it for free advertising now for 7 years. That's why Tesla spends no money advertising. He just puts it all out there on Twitter, which then feeds the rest of the media. And that's the remarkable thing. But I think because it's an Elon Musk story now, people will pile back in to be part of the fray. It'll be an open cry forum. Yes, there'll be the lunatic fringe. There always is. That's about 2.5%. But let's see if we can put new features, make it more exciting. The platform was boring. That's why it lost so many people. Now let's see what he can do with it. It can't get worse. It cannot get worse than what it was. And finally, somebody went in there and cleaned it out, and that's a good thing.
Do we see it public again at some point?
No, I don't think so. I think this will become Elon Musk's platform. I think Trump's trying to do the same thing with his own social media. I think it'll be done well. I mean, he's already proposed putting out the algorithm code, making it open source for everybody. I mean, that's a really interesting idea. Why not? That'll self-regulate what actually happens there. But frankly, there's so many tools now. You can get good examples. Have a look at LinkedIn or Wikipedia. They don't have crazy situations on them every day. That's because they combine technology with some monitoring at the human level, and they maintain a really interesting platform in both cases. The same thing can happen on Twitter. It's just been so poorly managed. Imagine you let that management and that board run this thing for 10 years and no value created. The whacking stick should have come out a long time ago.
We've had lots of conversation and lots of questions this year on the EV space specifically and the rare earth metal space, which obviously has close ties. Give us your take here on the energy market in general. Volatility has been amazing this year, back above $100 for crude oil. And on the back of that, where are you looking in the rare earth space for opportunity?
Well, I think we should talk about the environment right now. GE just put out some numbers, stocks down 9%. The energy space has been very, very volatile, but there's another thing to watch for right now. I don't know if you saw it, but 3 weeks ago, the SEC put out a memorandum, and what it said basically was they are going to propose carbon neutrality audits. So in the same way that if you're a public company, you're trading on an exchange, you have to give financials every quarter, and they have to be audited by an auditor and signed off by that auditor. Then you issue them to the public, and that's been going on for decades, and that's how it works. Now they're introducing the idea that not only do they want financial audits, they want carbon audits. Now, this is where it gets complicated for the entire energy sector. We can see where it's had impact on stocks. Let me give you an example. Most Bitcoin miners, which is a very energy intensive activity, and you can look at other sectors too, because this is going to apply to all 11 sectors of the economy. But Bitcoin mining is a really good index. Prior to this memo from the SEC, people would index. They'd own Hot 8, they'd own Marathon, Riot, Hive. These names were an easy index to Bitcoin. If you were an institution, you couldn't own Bitcoin, you could buy the stocks. The SEC memo comes out, and basically what it says is if you claim that you're carbon neutral, which all of these Bitcoin miners do because they buy carbon offsets, but they use traditional power that's in many cases flared gas or burning coal or whatever you have. The problem with carbon credits, and everybody knows this, basically they're BS. There's no auditor that is going to actually sign that because they know the SEC is watching, and there's no ledger to carbon credits. You say, oh, I bought a square mile of the Amazon rainforest, offsetting my mining activity. Doesn't work. So those stocks have been absolutely crushed, and they're not going to come back because they built these mines off traditional energy, and now you've got to go to either nuclear power for Bitcoin mining or excess hydro. Those are the only two that are going to work unless you can prove that you're carbon neutral without using offsets, which I don't know how you're going to do that. But that's going to happen in other sectors too. There's an ESG war going on, and the ESG mandate is winning because the public and private markets are demanding it. So this is going to be very, very heavy duty pressure on traditional hydrocarbon marketing and hydrocarbon development and pipelines and oil and nat gas. You have to wait and see what happens. But I certainly now know that the public miners do no longer trade in tandem with Bitcoin, which came bounding back up above 40,000, but the stocks didn't. They are getting wiped out.
Amazing demand to come still in that sector as well. He is the chairman of O'Leary Financial Group. Kevin O'Leary, we appreciate your input and information as always. Thanks once again for doing this.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Kevin O'Leary, guys.
Oh my goodness, Kevin was spot on about Twitter. Like everything he said. The only thing I wanted to disagree with almost was like, are we sure Uber didn't do worse when it came to market as an IPO? Like, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I own shares of Uber, and they've lost a ton of money, man. But I don't love the fact that Elon's distracting himself. But the other side of this coin has been Tesla. Tesla got to the 200 period moving, okay, it didn't quite get to the 200 period moving average, and shut up, Neil, and get out of some of this trade first and then talk about it. I got to learn to do that sometimes. It just got to 905 for the second time there, and I would just turn to Arun and I was like, can you wait for 900? Do you have to try to get in front of 05 first? So I elected to get in front of 05 a couple of times there and just scalped it to 11s and 12s. If this is a temp bottom on Tesla, I was before thinking 35 to 40. I'm now thinking like 920 to 925. It could not, when it had buyers galore at 915 to 20, it could not hold this and get through that 925. If it gets back up to that price, I'm taking the 15, 20 bucks and I'm running away from it at this particular point. This is, like Kevin said, there is more volatility in this market. And when that happens, you don't want to get too caught up with expecting that you're going to be able to buck these trends, and that every single every single day is going to have these unbelievable bottoms that you can just hold for it to rally back up to VWAP, for it to rally back up to those highs. Nah, if I didn't get the trend today, which I didn't get, I missed GE. I missed Rivian. We had some small cap shorts, but we missed every single one on the big cap side. I'm not going to fight this too hard. If you catch a low, great. We'll make our money back on Tesla and be happy to have done that. The only other long I got is at UPS where it was holding that bottom. You just can't get too crazy about it. And oddly enough, look at what Twitter did. It broke that 50. And so we mentioned something about this too. Like, yeah, like investors, I'm a little bit surprised that it was this aggressive in terms of selling. I thought there'd be more buyers that would think it's appealing to get 54.20. I still don't see any reasonable case that can be made for blocking this from a regulatory side. However, until a deal actually closes, you don't get that 54.20. It is worth saying. You've heard me say it multiple times the last couple of sessions. I'm not really seeing the case for it not happening. And at some point, it becomes a value, right? To hold on to this potentially to the end of the year, maybe a little bit longer. You never know when these things are going to close. But wow, did Twitter never find a bid that was acceptable for me to start jumping in and scalp trading it. Tesla's been hard to avoid. If it's made a bottom here, like I said, 925 is good enough for me. But it hasn't even gotten through 15s yet. It's right back down to these lows. Tesla just cannot seem to catch a strong enough bid. As good as that bounce off 05 was, looks like we might be retesting it here. I'm giving it 25s. I'll be laughing to the bank to be able to take 25s. Forget about holding it to anything more than that.
It's been a rough go of it, to say the least, for these markets now. NASDAQ down 2.6%. S&P down 1.72. We're still looking like we want to go down. Tesla wants to look like, hey, let's take a peek below 900. I mean, we're still a few bucks away, and we've seen iceberg orders at that 950 area. So there's going to be some volume sitting in front of that. But at the same time, with Tesla and its drop, $100 to the downside, we're at 8.86%. Neil mentioned earlier, roughly the SSR level is going to be, SSR is going to be, SSR is 10%. Yeah, 10% on the day would put it in SSR, which roughly would put us into the 900 level if you do the exact math. Exactly where it's going to be, flexibility, but at the same time, Tesla's not looking pretty with where it's at, how it's been moving, and bringing the NASDAQ down with it. At the same time, Dominic, shout out to you because you were mentioning this to someone else, and I saw it. I'm like, you and your VIX position. We talked about VIX in, I think it was a Friday or so. VIX straight up, right? Anytime the market takes a nosedive, you got VIX shooting up to the upside. We talked about this on Friday, I believe, and VIX is still making it look like it wants to keep going up to the upside. Sure, I mean, we don't really look at it in terms of resistance support, but at the same time, it's a reference indicator, right? And you can see that VIX was at lows, and now we're not too sure how this is going to go because we've got a ton of space to the upside. So there goes VIX to the upside, up 8.5%. So shout out to you, Dominic, for getting that one right because I believe you were right since Friday. So huge hole there, Dominic. Brendan.
Hey guys, yeah, Money Talks brought to you by the Small Exchange. They're making it easier, guys, to access futures trading. Check them out with the QR code at the bottom of the screen. Go to the smallexchange.com. There's no PDT, less capital required as well at the Small Exchange. That is the dollar index. Speaking of the Small Exchange, Frank Caberno was talking about this on Monday. Above 102. So recent highs once again today for the DXY, 102.1, up about 0.4%. So a lot of these in negative territory. Japanese yen, Swiss franc standing out as strong today on the volatility play as they typically do. The Russian ruble, Miss V, 1.3 once again, back to the upside, 3%. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. If you joined us in the pre-market, we were talking about in positive territory. That has gone away and then some. But wow, that rally continues, guys, in the U.S. dollar.
Stocks weak, dollar up. I mean, it's just this kind of a day is one of those, whether you're up or down or you're sitting it out because, hey, you know what? If this is the first time you've seen markets this volatile, there's nothing wrong with making sure that you're learning from it. And on that vein, someone asked in the chat, why is SSR, short sell restriction, important as a level? There's a couple of reasons. One, 10% is a psychological level, so let's get that one out of the way. Two, you cannot remove liquidity shorting to the bid unless there's an uptick, which is a bit of a barrier for shorts to pile in at the bottom. That's why it can turn into a bit of a support level because it's hard for people to aggressively take more short unless there are buyers. Now, that's going to matter a heck of a lot more if it's an illiquid stock than if it's something that's incredibly liquid. Because if you watch a Tesla time in sales here, let me just quickly pull it up for you guys. You watch a Tesla time in sales here, no matter how aggressive it's going to the downside, you will always see little spurts of buy action. That's what market makers and algos will be doing. So there's always going to be these little upticks for you to be able to hit that. That's why we can always get shares short when a key level breaks on an SSR stock that's incredibly liquid. So it's more psychological than anything else. It happens to line up with 900. And I was just saying to Arun, I canceled my bid in front of 900 because if it does not sustain this bounce, my average price is now 906.50 because I got like a 905 and change price and I got a 906.50. I got in twice down there. If we break 05s and test 9s, it almost feels like it's going to need to run those stops before it bounces. Like if it didn't just bounce there, Tesla, it's hard to imagine it sees 900 without running those stops. And the next long might actually be if it breaks 900 and then traps or just relieves that pressure by running the stops and traps some people that might take a shot shorting underneath 900. So it either holds here and gives the move to 920, 925, or I don't want another long in Tesla till it breaks 900. That's why I'm going to play it. Otherwise, hold on to your shorts. They're good. G's about to hit 80 bucks today. The one mistake I'll make today, obviously, was not being aggressive enough with some of the shorts that we like. Like it's one of those where I'll be barely up because we did not get the good read on AMD with any kind of reversal. We never got Rivian. Rivian gave you a shot at 33. I was not willing to compromise on my entry prices for a stock like that. And then GE, I was too late to the party, right? Like we had to have that 85 that we wanted. We're able to hold on to it to this 80 level. I'll be taking this one out if we bounce off 80 with any kind of size. The market is so far down at this point, like this 2.7%, and then trying to make a bit of a bounce here, that if it catches one of those, Europe is closing 11 o'clock bounces, I don't want to get caught not taking profit on any of these short side trades. I want to go back to EVOK before we go on to earnings, because EVOK, I did reload it off that one, but I'm holding off to see what happens at 105 in VWAP here in terms of getting more shares. Like I did scalp it from 99 to 95. I want to see what happens up here at this 105 level before adding to that short, because if it breaks out, I think it's headed back to 125. Brendo, earnings, going to be a doozy.
Yeah, we're getting into the big names coming. This is, what day is today? Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, all going to have absolutely monster names. That is what is coming tonight and tomorrow morning.
That's a busy board, all right. Well, right in the middle, you got Alphabet, Microsoft, and Spotify. I mean, Spotify is there for the sake of being there, but Alphabet and Microsoft, big index names, definitely watch. Whatever's happening today, you get Apple, you get Alphabet and Microsoft tonight. If they come out both positive, this market we might be looking at 4,300 once again. So it might be a little backlash or a whiplash here if you get those two earnings coming out. But Tesla wants to take a look at that 905. I see you, Dominic. You're shouting out Kai for also playing the VIX there. Both of you guys, good job on playing VIX, because that's, if you're going to make money playing in volatility, that's where you got to go, right? We're trying to play the markets as a whole, but you can also play volatility, and there you go on VIX to the upside, as it is up 9% on the day. So shout out to Kai and Dominic playing that game. And here we are kind of heading out. Listen, I've had a rough morning going long, right? And this is just how I'm going to handle my day. It's been a rough start. I'm going to just back off a little bit. I'm going to watch the show. That is Tesla. Tesla at 900. That is a show to watch right now. So I'm going to step back a little bit. I'll manage the positions that I've got. Marvell still holding on for dear life here around those 58.50s. Uber's still, out of the money. I've got offers out on Uber to get out as much as I possibly can with a small hit. But again, we're not going to rush it. I've had a rough day, so I'm going to gear back a little bit. And then towards the end of the day, maybe in the afternoon, we've got a better, more clear of a read for me. I'm thinking futures south of yesterday's low. If we get underneath that, I can actually potentially open up a short here, depending on how. I'm not going to take it on the break. It all depends on how we get there and how we trade after we get there. But again, that's my next read here on the futures. So I'm going to go back to what I do best here, and which is focus on the futures. We'll let the equities take care of themselves, but futures is good where I'm going to put my focus as I step back and just, like I said, entertain myself with Tesla.
That's exactly. And look, Tesla it's the show. There's no question about it. But that just didn't work. I thought I hit one. We'll see if this one works. There we go. I just got out of GE. It just hit that 80.08 and then bounced off. So that's close enough to that 80 target to take that profit. It wasn't the trade that we wanted. It was the trade that we could get, and that was shorting the 83 level. And I wish I'd gotten into Rivian in the same way. I just wasn't aggressive enough on that one. So this day is not done. Tesla just broke 905. We're about to see that 900 level here. What a good time to maybe put a smile on our faces. Let's go to Miss V and see what national day it is besides sell Tesla.
Hey guys, what a crazy day. I hope you're all in a profitable territory. Please make sure you like this video. And of course, join Prad and me right after to continue trading. And happy National Pretzel Day, everyone. I'm down with pretzels, but I only do soft pretzels. I'm not about the small, hard ones. It's got to be the soft pretzels. Those are absolutely delicious. Put a little bit of garlic butter on there. Okay, what is for lunch, by the way? It's chicken thighs, I think. We have. It's actually a healthy lunch today. If I read it here, we got country roasted chicken thighs with Cajun baked sweet potatoes and steamed vegetables.
Maybe I don't want that salad then.
I mean, someone's got to eat that salad.
I know. There's a salad like Sean gets like that healthy salad, so like it's still here, and I ate it yesterday, and it's good. But that chicken sounds good. There's really good pretzels at the Rogers Center. That's something that like my daughter absolutely loves. I mean, you can't have too much of it, but yeah, man, that's not a bad way to enjoy a game. Shout out to the Raptors, who at this time yesterday I said had pretty much no chance slow clap for them, holding up a lot better than Tesla. Tesla 900 is coming right now. So look, I did hold on to the last third of that 05, the long in front of 05s. I had 05 halves and I had 06 halves. It'll show like the second entry that I'm still in. It's that last third of it. And I'll take the hit if it goes through 900. I said I wouldn't jump in front of the bid, and I'm not sitting down there in front of it. If it does bounce, like one shot bouncing off of it, then I might try adding back into it. Otherwise, I'll just let it break and hunt for some kind of a trade where it's like a rejection of the breakdown, it runs the stops and try and get back in on the upside of it. But wow, what an unbelievable.
Do you want to explain the SSR? Somebody was asking, it's like once it happens, what happens? Right?
Yeah, so
that's going to be something to know given where Tesla's
once
at.
it hits SSR, it just means that you cannot short sell by removing liquidity from the bid, right? So like the bid is 904 on level 2, you cannot sell by hitting the bid unless there is an uptick, meaning the last print on the tape is green. You can always sell shares that you have long. You can always do that.
And it's also in effect for the following day as
well.
well.
Yeah, and it lasts for the day that it happens, the 10%, and the following day as well. Brennan?
Just quickly, guys, backed holdings. BKKT halted right now. Just trying to double check on this, but a few people mentioning Apple, so possibly Apple news or related news anyways. For BKKT halted currently.
Oh, wow. That'll be big. And what a fantastic time, because we have Backed, which is on the move. Our halted. That also moved as well. Shout out and thanks to Kevin O'Leary for coming through with what I thought was a fantastic talk. I think it was pretty much spot on, especially with the analysis with Tesla and overall market volatility. And speaking of that market volatility, it's going nowhere. I know Trader Pratt and Miss V are going to be all over this Tesla 900. Without further ado, let's go right over to the midday show. Going to be crazy.
Welcome to the Midday Show, also known as Market Movers. I'm your host, Trader Pratt, and I got the beautiful Miss V right here.
Thank you, Prad, and hey guys, indeed, welcome back. What a crazy day. So as usual, please be active on the chat. Ask us anything and like this video. All right, Prad, have you seen Tesla?
No, I'm just looking at it right now.